Well, hello everybody. Welcome to the show today. Very happy to have you here. Hopefully everybody had themselves a good weekend. I had to work as usual on Saturday, but Sunday was quiet. I just stayed home and played with my new computer.
Oh, you have a new computer?
I
Oh, the one you
did.
told me about.
Yeah,
Yeah,
the
yeah, yeah,
ROG Flow. Yeah. Um,
yeah.
I love it.
Mhm.
Yes.
What is it
It,
about that you love so much? Tell me.
it's fast as lightning. It's basically can be a tablet or a laptop as I like. Therefore, it's very portable, about the same size as the tablet, the iPad, right?
Yeah.
But I don't know, it just works so because in my house, right, I have this computer set up over in the we have like a kind of den kit slash kitchen area, right?
Mhm.
Um, and I got the big TV in here as well. But I don't spend all day in here, right? I often am in another room, about the same size as this one, but that's got one of those. I don't like it as much. Those other kind of screens. This one's a 4K, and this thing's awesome. But this is
Mhm.
also a Sony Bravia. The other one is Samsung, is it? Or I don't know. But it's those other type of screen. OLEDs, right?
Yeah.
And I'm always
LED.
so cautious to yeah, I'm always so cautious to use those things because they get the burn-in problems, right?
Yeah.
But mainly my wife watches her TV, Japanese stuff on it, and I don't pay much attention. But that's a more comfortable room. It's
Sure.
kind of set up Japanese style and cozy. So I mostly stay in that room, right? And therefore, if I want to use a computer, I got to get up, got to walk all the way down the hallway, and come into here and use the computer, which isn't a problem. But because when I'm sitting in the other room, if I want to use electronics, it's a tablet, and I don't know if you have experience with tablets. They are
Okay.
not computers.
Correct. Well, they're not personal computers. They are, in
Mm.
fact, computers. They're not quite a PC.
They're a pain in the ass. And especially Apple. Apple, they're sons of bitches, dude.
Yeah.
They don't want
Yeah.
you using anything that isn't their priority stuff. They block stuff. They're just I don't know dicks.
Yep.
Apple is so oppressive. I don't know why anyone
It
uses
is
it.
why I refuse to use Apple products. I don't care how efficient they allegedly are.
It's a great
No.
machine. Nothing, no,
Yeah.
no doubt about it.
Sure.
It's well made. That's
Sure.
true. Yeah, and then of course the company's, practices and some of the nasty things they've done to China. I don't like it.
Yeah. Not a fan.
Not a fan.
Plus, as brilliant as Mr. Jobs was, he was a piece of shit. He was a garbage human being. He just had an incredible mind
I
and
don't
knew
really know
and
anything
a
about
work
him.
ethic.
Yeah, I know
He
nothing
was just
about him.
not a good person.
Yeah.
But I don't. In America. See, I know over there it's probably a little different, but in America, Apple is pretty much just like this weird upper middle class cult. Like the people who are really invested, it's kind of like Disney. People who are really invested in Apple are they're in. They don't care whatever they shovel out, they'll buy it. It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
They have been completely and utterly brainwashed by this company. They don't even question. Of course, Apple's better. Well, what if it
Oh
isn't?
yeah.
Ah, it is. Oh, okay,
Oh,
I'm not going to argue with you.
Asia.
Spend it.
Asia
Spend your money.
is
You like?
Asia's worse in that regard, dude. They are
Mm,
fanatics about Apple over here, even though it's never actually the best product. I mean, they do
no,
make a good product. I'm not saying anything that it doesn't work well, because
yeah,
it
it's fine.
does.
It works.
Yeah.
Does the job. Yeah.
But they're never top ranked. Usually the
No.
one that's top is like the Google Pixel stuff.
Yep. That's what I
I
have.
mean,
Pixel.
Sony sometimes will edge up in there. I mean, if you want a really good camera, you get Sony, right? But sometimes
It
they'll
is
edge
kind
up
of
in there.
crazy when you think about it,
Samsung.
that
Yeah.
even billionaires have the same level of. I mean, theirs might be a little bit nicer, but by and large, it's just a cell phone.
Yeah.
It's not much different than the one you're going to buy. That's kind of crazy. That the smartphone, which credit to Steve Jobs, kind of brought a weird equality to the world because just about everybody uses them. I mean, as far as like in the first world, and a lot of the third world too, actually. Uh, and everybody basically has the same thing. I mean, yeah, there'll be some features or amenities or maybe this or that, but they all kind of suck. And we all just kind of accept that they suck. I mean, they last, what, 4 years if you're lucky? A cell phone, a smart device? Some of them might last a little longer, but by and large, they don't typically last very
No,
long. There's
they're
been
no.
lawsuits and stuff against these companies because they intentionally do that. Um, it's just it's just strange to me how that even this is one of the few commodities in the world because you technically don't need one, right? You don't need a tablet, you don't need a cell phone, you don't technically need one. There's other ways around not having one, but it's one of the few things in the world there's not like a luxury version of, right? They're all just kind of the same, and I find that fascinating. I wonder why that is, because as much as Apple is often, especially their computers and stuff, incredibly expensive for what you're getting.
It's like 2 grand
Even
now.
that,
Yeah.
yeah, even that, it's still not. I mean, that's not luxury prices. Luxury prices are at least 10K for anything. If your
Right.
watch, you didn't buy like a $10,000 watch, you didn't really buy a luxury watch, right? Like
Well,
there's levels to this
they've
game.
they've marketed themselves out of it, I think. But
Yep.
Dave says I use a tablet. Haven't touched a PC in years. Well, you're probably like a Chromebook type user, right?
Mm.
And that's fine. If that's who you are, you're good. You don't need it. I'm a PC person, and it's like, for instance, with my Apple, I have a huge Steam library. Can't touch it, right?
Yep.
Say I want to download this program or that program. Apple doesn't like it. If it's not on their Apple store, they make it real pain in the ass for you to use it. I mean, they really
Yep.
are aggressive about it. I just want to have a computer that I can download and use anything I want anytime I want it. I also want
Yep.
that access. I want the higher speed, and it's one of the thing about tablets. And if you're like a Chromebook user, right, then your tablet is fine from what you want with it. But I'm telling you, like this little Flow I have, this ROG Flow, it is a tablet and a laptop. It's a two-in-one, right? It's the same size as an Apple iPad, but the iPad is so much slower. So much slower. It's not even close, dude. It just blows the socks off of it. And I paid less for the ROG than I would have to pay for a new tablet. Hundreds of
Yep.
dollars less, right? So, yeah, it's just simple economics from my point of view.
Yeah. They're the other problem I have with tablets is like you just kind of said there. They're nice if you're only doing very simple things like watching
Yeah,
YouTube or maybe
internet,
typing up a
YouTube.
little note or something.
Yeah, they're
Um,
good, right?
if you don't, unless you have one, which I'm assuming that yours has, where you can turn it and it has a keyboard and the whole thing,
Oh yeah, oh
you
yeah.
can't do a lot of long form typing on. I mean, you can, but it's a lot harder. Um, and there's very limited applications. Now, one of the things I do think is cool that I've seen a lot of companies do now is they provide a tablet for their employee, and that allows them to do all sorts of work tasks, complete tasks. Like if you have a field technician or somebody who goes out to people's houses, or say like my wife, her
Oh
maintenance men
sure.
at her job
QR
all use
scanning, all that kind of
tablets.
stuff. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
it's also nice because and you can get this with your phone now too. They have the little card readers that just plug right into your phone or your
Yep,
tablet,
that's true.
and you can just take your credit card, bing, bang, boom. So
Yeah,
there is a lot of advantages to tablets, but I just
sure.
don't. I just can't. I've had a couple, and they didn't impress me enough to go get another one. We'll put it that way. I'd much rather just have my PC and do whatever I need to do on there.
Hmm.
And then it's also kind of nice when you have a stationary setup. You don't always want to be on your computer, right? So
Right.
if you don't, if you can walk away, is my point. It's not with you all the time. It's not up your butt. You can go take a breather and catch your breath, whatever. And it's just nice to have that space. One of the problems I think we have with technology, and this is something that actually upsets me. I hate listening to my phone ring. Whenever my phone rings, it angers me immediately. I hate
Huh.
it. I despise telephones in all forms. Cell phone doesn't matter. I hate the sound of a ringing phone. Probably because for 20 years or so, I was working in a business where it's customer service and the phone
Oh yeah,
rings and it's
yeah.
always a problem. So now I literally get triggered by the ringing of a phone, and I'm like, jeez, Why are you calling me? Nobody should be calling me. Don't call me. But
Eh,
so I don't like phones at all. If I had my way, I'd be like you. I wouldn't have one at all.
I don't
But I
have
have a
one.
wife, and she worries. She's like, "Well, what happens if you get stuck somewhere?" Well, then I'm stuck somewhere. I don't. What do you think people
Yeah.
did before cell phones?
Well,
They
I
got
mean,
stuck. That's what
I
happened.
I always have a tablet or in this now a laptop on me, so I can communicate
Yeah,
if need be. Yeah. Um. Yeah. No, I understand. But it's yeah, it just depends on who you are. I mean, if you're,
yeah,
like I said, a person who just needs the internet and some YouTube video stuff, man, you're golden. Go with the tablet then.
yep.
But I'm not that person. And
Yeah,
like,
I like the game.
yeah, I do, and I like to have other. I like to be able to download whatever I want to download. I don't like people telling me I can't download something.
Well,
I
that
don't
I was
like
going to
it.
say that too. That's one of the, and they've backed away from it in recent years, and I think this is a very bad idea. That's one of the big wins that Microsoft has over it and why they were so successful is Windows is so versatile.
Hmm.
It's very, I mean, it's possible for them to do great restrictions on it, but by and large, they don't.
Yeah,
And
and
that's a good thing. That's actually
yeah,
a huge benefit for them because that makes it you can use Windows for anything. You can run a business off Windows
yeah,
easily. You can play
sure.
video games on it. You can whatever you want to
Well,
do.
yeah, it's a Windows
Uh,
machine, right? It's Asus, right?
yeah, yeah,
But yeah, no, absolutely. And you know, with those, the thing is, like, a lot of people are complaining about Windows 11, right?
yeah,
And on my computer, on my desktop here, which I'm using right now to communicate with you guys, I use Windows 10. Windows 11, no thank you, right? However,
yeah,
if you're on a tablet type of experience, that's what Windows 11's built for. It works
yes,
really well in that case, and so because the new one has Windows 11 on it, and I love it in that form, right? Because it's built for
right.
that. And from what I understand, because I watch a lot of tech news, Windows 12, which is in production right now, is going to be even more so built for
Yeah.
tablets and touch screens and stuff like that. So
Well, because they do this, right? So they always have and typically it's the odd numbered ones are like the transitionary. Well, not always, but it's often the odd numbered ones are transitionary uh, versions of Windows. And I think that's what 11 is. I think that's one of the reasons why it's kind of shit.
well, that
Because
happens
they
too, but it
understand
works
that.
well though. It does.
Yeah, they understand that they can do this because they've done it before, right? They've done it with multiple versions of Windows. And what they do is they put out one that everybody agrees is just not as good as the previous version. Well, the reason they do that is because that gives them a nice foundation to build off of what they just put out, and then they eventually you get to a Windows 10. Because Windows 10 wasn't great when it first came out either, but they've had it around for so long now they've hammered it out quite a bit, especially compared to like Windows 7 and whatever. So they do this. They have this process that they seem to go through. I don't know if it's intentional or not, but it is definitely consistent. And they'll put out one that everybody just kind of agrees is just not like. Remember Windows Vista? Everybody's like,
Yeah,
ugh.
yeah,
It
yeah.
just wasn't very good. And then they got around eventually got around to 10 and whatever. And for the most part, even I was a late adopter of 10. I actually have a computer in this house that still works. My wife uses it all the time, a laptop to watch YouTube. That's a Windows 7 that still works. Um, my point is, I think that's what 11 has become for them, or maybe that even was what they intended it as a transitionary phase into
Mhm.
12, because that just seems to be their mo. They put out one that they know isn't really you know, quite as good as as the one before it. Try to get everybody to transition to it while they're actually working on the replacement
Yeah, they do that shit all
later.
the time. A lot of video games
Yeah.
do that too. They release these bugged
Yep.
crap. Then they say, well, of course they're gonna get it. It'll be ready in 2 years, really.
Right.
Roger, yeah, no, over in the States, you might well be paying those kind of prices. I'm sure. But here in Japan, if I want an iPad, I'm paying $2,000,
That's
not four hundred
outrageous.
dollars.
Outrageous.
Yeah.
Do you guys have in Japan I do you have a big or a I should say robust like a refurbished or used market for that sort of stuff?
No,
Because we
not at
do
all.
here.
Yeah.
You can at least where I'm at in the part of the country I'm at, I can. There's all kinds of shops, and even online you can look where they'll have refurbished iPads and iPhones and all this stuff for much cheaper, to the point where a lot of times these places don't realize that they can sell broken screens back to Apple or to any of them really, but definitely to Apple, and they make pretty good money per screen because the material in the screen is incredibly valuable. It's one of the most expensive parts in
Yeah,
a,
and that's
a
true.
smartphone is the
That's
screens.
true. Yeah.
So the crystals. So they will gladly buy these back from you. I know there's people who are that's pretty much what they do is they just go around to these like repair shops and refurbishing shops and they take their broken screens and just sell them off to Apple or sell them off to another company who
Right.
basically tears them apart and sells the raw material back to the companies or to whatever. But my point is, we have in America we have a large refurbishing market, right, where
Sure.
you can
No,
get
America
refurbished.
always has. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's beautiful. The sad thing is most Americans don't even realize it exists. Like we used to, when I was doing appliances, we used to get refurbished, and we could refurbish if we needed to. KitchenAid stand mixers, the big $400 ones or more, and people didn't even know that. They didn't know you could get a refurbished model straight from the factory in Ohio, right down the road about an hour from where I live. Well, a little over an hour, but still, right down the road. And yeah, they sell them. They take them in. They refurbish everything. Most of the time, a refurbished model. This is another little secret people don't know. If you see something's refurbished, some people back off from that because they think it's used. It was never used most of the time. Most of the time, all that happened is it got scratched, and they can't sell it new because it got scratched. So they send it back to the factory to put a new shell on it and then sell it for half price.
Hmm.
That's what most refurbishes are in pretty much anywhere in the world. Is it got
Yeah.
scratched in transport or somebody dropped it, so they had to tear it apart and make sure it worked, and then they can't sell it as new because it's not legally new. It's not
Right.
brand new from the factory. Like when you sell used things, you're not supposed to say brand new if it's not brand new. That's actually illegal. It's false advertising.
Yeah. No, it is.
Um, yeah, but my point is, in America we have the large refurbishing market. It allows certain things like that to be cheaper. So that computer I'm telling you about, I had another one when I was selling cars that I got off of Best Buy Marketplace way back in the day, and
Hmm.
they had a refurbished section, and it was a refurbished. I want to say it was an Acer or an Asus, one of them, and it did the job. Did the job just fine for a while before I finally got rid of. Eventually, I gave it to somebody, I think,
Yeah.
but did the job just fine. And that's one of the main advantages in America because I kind of figured Japan didn't really have that sort of a
Well,
market. They don't seem like that type of people.
yeah, no, they've been programmed
Yeah.
to buy new, the Japanese, and of course this is because, like I've mentioned before, the Japanese economy is an internal one, where the American
Hmm.
economy is supposed to be an external one, right?
Hmm.
And that's why you have so many service-based jobs. But Japan has an internal market, and they only want people buying Japanese stuff. So the custom tax, the tariff, tariffs, and shipping costs are just outrageous here to try to reinforce that. It's much cheaper to buy a Japanese product than anything else, in most cases. And of course, Japanese products are really well made, so why not, right?
Yeah.
But they also need people to constantly be buying new, right? So that the
Right.
economy is constantly flowing. That's why you get the Sony's 7-year bug. It's like
Right.
consistently 7 years a Sony will break on you.
Which is probably right around the
Amazing,
law, right where the law
right?
says it
Right.
has to last.
But that's Japan. Uh,
Yep.
Now there is a small used car market, but it's mainly for kids in their first cars. They're usually
Sure.
small little K car stuff. There is one store in Japan I know of that does sell used things. It's called, I know it. Don't well go. You can laugh all you like. It's called Hard Off.
Why is it called hard off?
I guess that they're hard off on the sale. I don't know.
Oh
But it's called,
no.
and then there's another segment of it that's in this usually in the same store called Book Off.
Oh
Okay.
no.
The book off makes a little more sense. And when you go to those places, mainly it's books, right? and they're
Yeah,
used books, right? Japanese
that
read
makes
a lot,
sense.
right? But the
Make
other
a
part
lot
of
of
the
money
store,
doing used books.
yeah, that's true. But they'll have things like musical instruments and
Yeah.
high end stuff. It's not little stuff,
Mhm.
but it's and every big town you go to, I see one of these. So they do have it, but it's
Sure.
just not cultural. The Japanese are new people, particularly with things like cars and stuff like that. But you also got to remember, Japan is not a computer culture,
Mm.
which is really, really weird. It's bizarre because if you guys keep in mind, the very first PC ever was NEC, which is Nippon Electronics Company, right?
Right.
With old Bill Gates there, right, competing against IBM, and they blew the doors off of them, right? But
Yep.
that's coming out of Japan, so you would figure Japan would have this mighty killer computer industry. It doesn't. They make computers, but
Huh.
they make little simple office computers, and they work just fine. But they're super cheap and they're easy. They just won't do anything in modern computing. They're crap, right? But the lucky thing for us, well, they are. Thing for us is we have a really good relationship with Taiwan. So, the Taiwanese actually like Japanese. It's
Right.
like the only Asians that do. And they get along really well. So you can get an Asus or Acer product or AMD product here in Japan at a kind of normal cost, right? They have some special
Mhm.
relationship, and I'm all about that. Asus is badass, right? Um, Whereas Korea with LG, Samsung, and Lenovo is China in it, I
I
think.
believe so.
Yeah, but Korea, um, they hate Korea, and the Koreans hate them back. Ain't no love between those two countries. I'll tell you what. But they'll take and jack the price up on a Samsung like absolute mad. Do me a quick favor, chat, or maybe Thundero. Could you search real quick and tell me how much the new Samsung tablet costs, please?
Samsung tablets. Let's see. Let's see, shall we? Probably talking about the Galaxy, I'm assuming. Galaxy Tab.
Yeah,
I bet that's it.
9, I
Series
think it's up to.
S9. Yep.
Yeah.
Let's see. I'm on Samsung, old Samsung. Go to buy now. Ba-ba-ba-bow. Okay, to buy the absolute best one that Samsung has on offer right now.
Yeah.
Top of the line. Wait, hang on. Top of the line, everything. You are looking at $1,600.19.
hmm hmm I saw one the other
That's
day when I
top of the
was
line.
yeah, top of the line. I saw one the other day when I was buying my ROG because I went
Hmm.
to a gigantic, electronics store up in the big city. I mean,
Yep.
gigantic, right? It was almost $4,000,
Phew.
just under, and actually with tax and stuff, it probably would have pushed it over. Yeah. So I
Wowza,
mean,
wowza.
yeah, they do it intentionally. Korean stuff, they hate Korean stuff. They don't want Japanese buying it at all. So
Well,
you have
it's.
this to
I
deal
mean,
with.
I don't hate it personally. I think there's a lot of wisdom in that because it might stagnate the economy, and largely Japan's economy is
It has.
stagnant, but it's stagnant in a good place. It's where
Yeah.
you want it to be stagnant. It could be a lot worse. Trust me. Go to an American
Yeah.
city.
Well,
It
coming
could
up
be a
on 30
lot worse.
years stagnant, right?
Yeah,
I mean,
and
and a
it's
lot
just
of
kind of just paid right there. Just kind of
well,
riding that line.
they do, and a lot of Japanese bemoan it, but they don't understand economics whatsoever. Of course, the
Yeah.
average person, and not just Japanese, any person. But
Yes.
sure, it'd be nice if you get some growth. That's not a bad thing. But if you're stagnant, meaning you have zero movement, and
Yeah.
that zero movement is sitting on a very high level, that is not a bad thing at all.
Because with growth comes the possibility of recession. Comes the
Sure.
possibility of it to stop growing. And what happens is, and it seems like a lot of the Japanese people haven't had to experience this, especially like you said, the last 30 years or so, is people get used to that growth period. So they start living too high. They get up high on this hot. We're going through this right now in America. we're in a recession. Really, it's probably a depression, but they don't want to call it that because the only thing propping the economy up is people are using credit cards like crazy. We have the largest credit card debt in America, I think, ever right now, because people are just racking up credit card debt to keep their head
Yeah,
above the water
yeah,
where it
which is
was
stupid.
when Trump was in office, right, 4 years ago. Um, and I'm not saying it's smart. I agree with you. It
It's
is
true, Bob.
stupid.
Yeah,
But unfortunately, it's what people do. And I think it seems like this is obviously from outside looking in. Japan hasn't had to deal with that because they have their insular economy. Now they
yeah,
still have exports, obviously, but they control that very tightly. And I actually think that's probably the way I think. And my big theory of how an economy should be managed is internally. It should be as limitedly. I'm sorry. You should limit as much as you interfere with it as possible.
oh yeah, no,
Externally,
hands off.
you should be a damn pit bull. You should be a hold-on gatekeeper. You should have walls the size of cities, metaphorically, of course. You shouldn't let anybody meddle in your market
Yep.
one way or the other
No, the
because they
Austrian
don't
method.
have the same investment in your people
That's
as
true.
you do.
Yeah, that's true.
That's my whole philosophy. So I actually like that Japan does that. I think they could, there's probably areas where they can loosen up the reins a little bit,
Well,
but
they
it's
do,
Japan.
like with
It's kind
Taiwan,
of
with
it's kind of
Apple,
their thing.
with Mercedes and BMW,
Yeah,
Volvo, European car companies, not American companies. They can go to hell,
yeah.
right?
Well,
But the
can you blame them?
European ones, because they're status symbols, right? But I don't, when you talk about Ben saying hard off and putting exclamation, you've probably been to one. Jeez. And Eric, I was talking about in Japan, right? Outside of Japan, Sony Bravia is a badass thing that'll last 17 years. Yeah. But in
Yep.
Japan, it's about 7 years, right? Because they have this rotational market they need to have here. But yeah, and Bob, of course, is 100% right. Tech is getting expensive. But
Yep.
in some ways, in other ways, it's not. It's an odd little a little duck
Well,
there.
it's funny because I rag on libertarians a lot, but when it comes to one thing that they're right about, they are right that pretty much every single market you can look at in America, especially where the government has decided they're going to help, it got ridiculously expensive within 30 or 40 years because, well, there's various reasons, but long story short, it doesn't help. It doesn't actually make things
No,
cheaper or
no.
more affordable. Whereas in tech, there's a lot less direct government intervention. And what do I mean by that? I mean, appliances in this country have a ton, and I mean, I don't even know if I can describe to you how much regulation to do very, very simple things like keep food cold. An American style refrigerator, the reason why refrigerators are so expensive, one of the main reasons is because there's so many rules on how a refrigerator must be built that these companies are in a box. They have two choices. They either just lose money, which we know they're not going to do, or they just jack their price up for you to buy the exact same refrigerator, or probably, if we're being honest, one that actually functions worse than one from 30 or 40 years ago, because the government has meddled. The government has told them, we know how to
Yeah,
build this better than you.
yeah,
This is how you must do it.
yeah.
And a lot of tech doesn't have that level of intervention because it's not seen as, I don't know, I guess dangerous, whatever. There was a time when refrigerators were dangerous. That time's gone. The
Sure.
chemicals that they use in there for the sealed system are no longer a threat to anybody unless you get straight blasted with a huge dose of it. But the old stuff was. The old stuff wasn't. You didn't want it. You didn't want that in your touching you at all because it could cause damage, and it was bad for the environment allegedly. So, but that's gone. As is wont to do, the market fixed that without the government getting involved. The government tried to tell them, "Hey, you're not allowed to have that." Like, all right, we'll make new ones, and they made new ones. And when they made new ones, you came out with new types of refrigerant, which is mostly done by the Freon Corporation. It's My point is the government hasn't largely messed with televisions, right? The reason why TVs are far more reasonable than they were 20 years ago to get a nice, unless you're buying a brand new cutting edge one, you can get a decent television in America for $500, good size
Yeah.
and everything. That isn't bad. That shouldn't break you. You shouldn't be
Right.
in the poorhouse over $500.
No.
Um,
Yeah.
Whereas a car, largely, that's not the case.
Cars are getting out of
They're
control. That's true.
they're out of control.
Yeah, way out
And
of
a lot
control.
of that is corporate greed, absolutely, no doubt. but it's also
Regulation.
government intervention
Yeah.
being in the
No,
way.
it's true, and we see a lot of that kind of nonsense in every single solitary field. But and then you'll see these weird little oases, right? Like if you go to if you're in America, in particular, and you go to one
Yep.
of those computer stores, the
Yep.
ones that are designed where you go and buy the parts and build it yourself, those type
Yes.
like I do here.
Oh
You
yeah.
can build a straight up badass computer for $1,000, straight
Yep.
up, right? Whereas, other people around the world might pay $3,000 what you just bought, right?
Right.
And Ben says, talk about hard off. I know, and I was excited the whole time. Ben, you'd be proud of me. I just got a brand new ROG Flow Z13, dude. It's awesome. Love it. The Windows machine.
He's
I'm
excited.
supporting your people.
The peoples.
Yeah, I'm supporting
Yes,
the
the
peoples.
destitute people of Microsoft.
That's right.
They're hard up, Chester. They need your
They are.
support.
I'm helping them out. Dude, I have tried every OS there is. I have.
Yeah.
And I can't stand Apple's OS in a computer situation. I don't need
It's
if you're an art.
unintuitive.
Well, it's not made for us. It's made for artists and
Yeah,
editors. That's what
it
it's
is.
for, and that's fine. They found their niche. I've used Linux. Shit, I had a Linux machine when Ben was here, I think. And I've tried other stuff as well. But yeah, no, Windows is the way to go, dude. It's the
It
way. It's
is,
the way to go.
unfortunately.
Yeah, it
It is,
works.
unfortunately. I wish there was more competition in this market, but there just isn't. It's
He
it's one of
appreciates it.
those cases where there's pretty much only two. I mean, yeah, Linux exists, but very few people use it. Uh, there's pretty much only the two, right?
It's the
Especially for
tinfoil
home
hat people's
computing.
OS is what that is.
Yes, and it's a shame. I wish there was more competition, but it's largely because last I knew, Ben would know better than me. I don't think Microsoft makes money on their OS. They make money on all the peripheries for the
I don't
OS
know.
and chips and things, but largely the OS is very. I could be wrong about that, but I'm pretty sure they don't make a lot of money off of it. It just gets them market saturation, which gives them all kinds of power, and that's where they get their
Yeah,
money
you
from.
know who Microsoft
Uh,
is. Yeah.
yeah,
I don't know where their real money is. They're probably in securities and things like that.
probably.
But nevertheless, Windows just works really well. We're very comfortable and familiar with it. It does exactly what you want it to do, and
Yeah.
generally stays out of your way.
Well, the other
Generally,
thing about it is it's like I said, it's very intuitive. The people who originally designed the original Windows, which was not Bill Gates, but he gets credit for it.
of course.
Uh, these the way they did it was just smart. It was simple. The way you solve a problem like a computer, because
Uh,
back in the day, computers were very, very annoying. Uh, yeah, that's what I thought. But anyway, computers were very, very annoying because you had to be able to speak to it in computer by and large, right? Well, the Windows system came in and made it very simple. It's literally point and click. It's you can run your entire Windows computer with just your mouse for the most part. I mean, you might have to type occasionally, but by and large, you can do it all with your mouse, and that is why I think it's so easily spread because it's just so intuitive. It's literally just point and click or double click sometimes to get what you want and get it to do basically whatever you need it to do. Obviously, there's always going to be problems, and Windows often will give you problems, the infamous blue screen of death. But a lot of that is solved just by using it. The
dude,
more
I
you
haven't
use it,
had
the
that
more
problem
you.
since Vista.
Um, I think I had it on my old computer one time, and I rebooted it, and it never did it again. It's
Yeah,
pretty
no,
rare,
it's usually
but it
not a
does
big
still
problem.
happen occasionally.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no, I never had problems. So knock wood. But like I said, the Windows 11 is really not good for my desktop. It's great for my ROG though. It's
Yeah.
absolutely killer. But yeah, no, we know that Microsoft is very well diversified, and I wonder
Yeah. Bill.
what Microsoft thinks now with Old Man Gates, because
Old man game.
well, no, because he was in a major rivalry with
Yeah.
Steve Jobs, right? Major that they hated each other. We all know the story.
Yeah.
There's movies been made about it, right?
Many of
But
them.
when he was when Jobs was on his knees, who did he go to though? He
Yeah,
went to old man Gates, right?
yeah, his
Um,
rival.
and Bill Gates smugly gave him money. And
Oh, I'm sure.
no, he did. And what did Jobs do? He turned that into the iPod,
Yeah,
and there it went. So I just find it really interesting because Bill could have said, "Yeah, go screw yourself, Jobs," and
yeah.
let him die, and there would be no Apple today. It's he created a monster, dude.
Well, he created a something for his company to have a antagonist, which was smart.
Maybe,
Uh,
maybe.
I think Bill Gates, as evil as he is, and he is, he's not an idiot.
Oh no,
He
he's
knows what
smart
he's
as a
doing.
whip. That's
Yeah,
true.
yeah. But he
That's a
is evil.
that's an old slave
Absolutely.
joke, by the way.
There's a whole lot of evil people in tech. It's very interesting how much evil is at the top of these tech companies. They're just evil people, just wicked, that will do cruel things for a little bit more money. Just a little bit more money. It's shocking to me. I can't
It is,
imagine
yeah. They're greedy. You know,
how this many evil people got to the top of these companies. It's
yeah.
shocking.
I'm sitting here thinking, it has nothing to do with this conversation because I just said smart as a whip, which of course is an old slave reference. How many
Yeah.
words and things we have in our culture that go back to that time, right? The
Ooh.
black people like to use the word cracker, which is talking
Yeah.
about the slave master and his whip, right? I
Mhm.
wonder how many of these kind of things are just kind of stuck in our culture we don't even think about that are coming out of that, pretty ugly practice, right? I mean, it's still going on, but I'm just saying, I wonder how many. There's two right there.
Probably quite a few, but I would say the fact that nobody really thinks about them that way anymore
Yeah,
means
well, that's
it doesn't
true.
matter.
It's not
Uh,
internalized that way. That's true.
it's kind of like
Well,
cracker, right?
except
Like
cracker, they do use that
yeah,
internalized.
people
Yeah.
pretend that that's offensive, and who gets offended? No, I don't know if I've ever met anybody who's genuinely offended at being called a cracker. Now, it could be depending on the circumstances, like somebody gets in your face aggressively, but it's more of the aggression than it is the
Yeah.
term.
Well,
Uh,
you know where I learned what that word meant
oh,
was from an old Clint Eastwood movie, Alcatraz.
oh,
Yeah, he
yeah,
was sitting there and being
old
racist
Clint,
as Clint often could be, talking
yeah,
to a black dude. And they were being equally racist to each other, and he called him cracker, and
yeah,
he was like, "What does that mean?" And he explained it. So yeah, yeah, interesting. I
yeah.
just wonder because I haven't my brain's not really in the mood to digest the entire English language at this particular second, but I have a feeling there's probably a lot.
Yeah, probably. I mean, it's just like we talk about how much Yiddish
Oh my
has
God,
hasn't
that's way bigger,
infiltrated
way bigger.
the,
Yeah.
the the English language, especially in America. Uh, yeah, it's the same thing.
Yeah.
These things get in here because English is the great sponge. We take from everywhere, every language, every culture. We take a little bit here or there, and we just absorb it into
Well,
into into English. And I think that's exactly what it is. Things
yeah.
things get stuck in, and as the Brits say, they get stuck in,
Yeah.
and that's it. It just never comes out.
Yeah,
Never
but
gets dislodged.
America particularly because just I don't think it's a conspiracy theory. Some people would immediately go there, but
Uh-oh.
it's just by chance. A lot of
Hmm.
Jewish people were over in New York, coming in on Ellis Island, right? And they were trying
Yep.
to find ways to make money. Some did delicatessens. Other them use old family trades like goldsmithing, tinsmithing,
Mhm.
diamond setting, all that kind of stuff. But a big group of them were entertainers, and they just started entertaining. Created vaudeville, of course. Then they had built up enough money that they wanted to give it a shot, and there was this real cheap land out west.
Yep.
And then the war came in, shut down the megalith that was European movie making. Because keep in mind, it wasn't America in the beginning, guys. It was Europe, and
Yes.
they got lucky. They were sitting in America. America was the only one doing well after the war, and they just rolled on. They just rolled on, and they became this monolith that they are now. And of course, in that time, all the movies and TV shows they just happened to be being made by Jews. Like I said, it's not a conspiracy. It's just simply the way it was. So of course their culture, their language, their sensibility is going to be in their creation, obviously. So all of us in America grew up, and the world as well in a way, because Hollywood has influenced the entire planet. You grew up under a Jewish culture, whether you
Yes.
know it or not.
Which was which was one of Hitler's core complaints, was the infestation, as he would term it,
Yeah, he didn't
of
like the Jews much,
Jewish
it seems.
thought, right, through their media and things. Like there was whole dissertations among the Nazis against Jewish media, right? Because they didn't like Jews, to be honest. So
No.
they didn't want their influence in their country. That's one of the reasons why the Nazis were very big on pushing their own cinema, because they
Yeah.
didn't want that dirty
No, no,
Jew
sure.
stuff
No, sure. You know the
in their country.
sad thing about all of this, I would think that the Jewish people worldwide might want to stand up and have a conversation with the Jews that are making all the problems, right? Because
One would.
the well, you would think, because the average Jew is just a person like you or I. They're no different,
Yeah.
right? But there is a
Yeah.
small core, those Swiss bankers that are sitting there with their Egyptian gold in the mountain, right?
Yeah.
That are constantly interfering and trying to micro manipulate. Keep in mind, the Jews not only created capitalism, they also created communism. Go
That's right.
figure,
Correct.
right? They're just this small group, which today usually they just identify them as Zionists, which is inaccurate, but we'll go with it. But
Correct.
that small group that's constantly, even to this day, causing nothing but trouble. Nothing but trouble. They're absolute jagoffs, right? And what
Yeah.
has happened? You have all the Islamists. Now, maybe not Muslims, but Islamists are constantly on
Yeah.
about the Zionists, and sometimes they'll just say Jew, and they're mad at them. They're not really mad at the average Jew, but they get punished for it, don't they?
Oh yeah. It's
Right?
just easier.
Yeah.
Just
But it's
easier to
just
punish them all.
well,
That's their thinking.
but you know what I mean? I mean, it's not. It's like with
Yep.
Catholics. I don't see Catholics being murdered left and right across the majority of the world. Of course, the Middle East is very violent, but the most of the places Catholics are just fine. But the Vatican is a freaking monster den, dude.
Yeah, they're evil.
Right?
That's
But you're
all
not
what it
seeing.
is.
But the average Catholic is not being blamed for that, right?
Correct.
Except we can apply this
Well,
in many ways, right?
I think a lot of that is their propaganda for their religion is better, because it's a very exclusive, meaning, well, I should say inclusive, I guess. It's universalist Catholicism and
Well,
Christianity, whereas
Catholic
Judaism
means
is
universal,
not.
just so you know.
Yes.
Yeah.
These are very universal, a very universal religion, and so is Islam. It's very universalist. Um, and I think that's why. Plus, a lot of people's first and only really influence from the Catholics would be the missions and the hospitals and the
Yeah,
things.
that's something the Jews don't
Them
do. That's true.
trying to
Yeah.
do. Well, they do some of it, but they're not as
Yeah,
big,
not
right?
really.
There's only like what, 16 million, something like that. That's the
True,
official number,
but
I think.
it's
Jewish
nowhere
people.
near the Catholics or even go beyond the Protestants. I mean, Jesus.
No, I know. Nobody touches them. And my point is, I think that's one of the reasons why. It's
Yeah.
because they go out and they do these good works as they were commanded to by Jesus, to go out and heal the sick and things.
Oh yeah,
And
yeah, yeah.
they're actually the missionaries and the doctors and the people who are of the faith that are doing these things. I think that softens the blow of the outright wickedness and evil
Yeah,
that is the Vatican
that's fair.
and these core.
Or
Even, and it's not just the
Protestants,
Vatican.
right? Yeah,
Yeah,
it's not just
a lot of the Protestant organizations are corrupt as
as hell,
hell.
dude. Yeah, that's true. Yeah, but I mean, it's just the Jews get a bad rap, dude. They get a bad
They do.
rap.
They do. I agree.
And I know, not maybe everyone doesn't know, but I know where the problem's coming from, and I bet you they know
Yeah.
too, right? So I'm just like, if they need to somehow get a handle on it, because one
I
thing,
think it's. I think a lot of the reason why that you don't see people making the difference, like you and I are capable of doing, is because what you said at the beginning. There's not enough of them saying, "Hey, stop it! What are
yeah,
you doing?
yeah,
Why are you doing? Stop it! I don't care what your reason is. Just stop." Just leave them
No,
alone.
that
Leave the
is true.
Gentiles alone, for crying out loud, please.
They
You're
tend
poking
to
a hornet's nest here.
they tend to hide and isolate their deviants instead of
Yep.
dealing with them. That's true.
Yep.
But I'm just saying it really sucks because we've seen this. I'll make a Jew joke as quick as anybody else, but I'll make a black
Yep.
joke and a white joke. I don't give a shit. It's if it's funny, right? But all of that kind of standard levity aside, another Jewish word, by the way. Um,
Yep.
the thing it's with them though, uh, with this situation that happened in Gaza, which is outrageous. It's just outrageous with the Palestinians, and you can't tell me they're innocent because they ain't, right? But with that thing,
Correct.
we saw how much Jew hate there is in the world, dude,
Yep.
dude,
Yep.
and it's not fair to them because that's a teeny little ultra. I mean, we're talking some of the money in that community that what I'm talking about. They don't have to report their monies, right? Because they're banks, and
Mhm.
I don't know if you know this, but banks don't have to report the money they have. Isn't that interesting? Yeah, but some of
Funny how
these
that works.
just even singular families, though, dude, they have more
Yep.
money than the world GDP. The
Yeah.
world. Do you understand what I just said? The world GDP. They have more,
Mhm.
right? This is a super small group of people, and they are
Yep.
big time troublemakers. And yes, they were supporting of the Zionist thing, but keep in mind, Zionism only means that the Jews deserve a state of their own. That's all it is. That's it. So they were certainly part of it and they funded a lot of it, sure. But the average person living, and they don't live in Israel, by the way, right? The average person living in Israel who would call themselves a Zionist are thinking of it from a very practical and positive point of view. Yes, I'm a Jew. I deserve a state of my own. That's all they're thinking. And they're not attached to these other jackasses. But it's just unbelievable the fallout that happens on 99.9% of people that have nothing to do with the bullshit. I was shocked, dude. I know there's people that hate Jews. I get it. You can find a group that hates everything, right? Especially
Oh yeah.
these days, freaking internet, man. But the number of people that hate on Jews right now, freely and openly, is like, whoa, man, whoa. That's bad
Yeah.
shit, man.
It's only gonna get worse too. The longer you have organizations out here who do exactly what we just said earlier, cover up for the bad ones instead of making them face justice, it's just gonna keep getting worse.
Oh yeah, no,
Because
yeah,
people,
they get
the
away with it.
human
Yeah,
spirit, the human spirit, while corrupt, wants justice. It's something that is in every culture. Now, there's different definitions, sure, but the idea
no,
is
yeah,
in every culture on the planet for a reason, and it's because something within us demands it. And when somebody, anybody, doesn't matter what you're doing, is same with the Catholics. When they protected all the pedophile priests, they shouldn't have done that. They should
no,
have turned them over to the authorities immediately.
they should have.
Uh, the same thing. I don't care what group you are. I don't care who you identify as. I don't care what your shared history. I don't care. I don't give a rat's white ass about any of that. Are you standing in the way of justice?
Yep,
Are you doing that? Because if you are, you're wrong. Period.
yeah,
And that's the problem. I think that's where it comes from. People long enough, over a long enough time, where people see these patterns, and that's really all it is. Hatred is just pattern recognition in the negative. That's all it is. That's it. You see enough of these patterns and you associate with them this negativity of they protected this guy who did this to a kid, or they protected
right.
this guy who did this, or whatever. That happens enough, and eventually you stop even looking for the pattern to have a start anymore. You just start to assume that it's coming, that okay, that guy's one of them, he must be like that.
Right.
Because your
Yeah.
brain, one, we can only do so much computation, right? As much as our brains are nice big meat computers, they're limited, and we got other things to do, so we can't be
Well,
constantly sitting over here parsing everything.
speak for
You know,
yourself.
we can't be parsing everything. So what happens is it's just easier to assume that X is bad because he is X
Yeah.
than it is to
But
have on every interaction pull
right.
back for a second, be like, hey, maybe I should. This is one of the reasons why when we lose the presumption of innocence as a cultural force, as a principle, not a legal principle, that's great. We want that too, but as a spiritual, cultural principle, when you lose that, you've lost. And bigotry and actual prejudice will win every time because that's our natural
Yeah.
default. because we're a bunch of apes who want to protect our stuff.
Oh,
So
sure,
if
we're
X looks like
tribalists. That's
X,
true.
if X looks like Y that hurt me over here, I'm not going to mess. I don't want nothing to do with X. Get rid of X.
Yeah,
We're that's all we are.
I get your point, and you are 100% correct. But when it comes to the Jews, though, it is way out of
Yep.
balance. It's an extreme. It's an extreme I can't think of in any other situation. Like,
Well, I can explain that one too. It's because they're so successful. They're especially in America. If you look at like when you
so
talk about
just
we have all
envy.
these
All
people.
right.
Well, it's not even so much envy. It's just they're the most prevalent. You see, they're at the top of all the charts, or most of the charts, a lot of the charts. So it's just easier. Hey, they're at it must be them. It must be all of them because this guy is a Jew and he owns Google or whatever, right? That's why it happens. Whoever's at the top is going to be the ones who are catching all the flack.
Yeah, no, I get it, but
That's just
I'm
how it works.
never. My brain would never let me be such an absolutist. But then again, Yoda
Yeah,
and I would be friends then. We get along.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Well,
Um.
here's the problem is you're very much of a European mindset. And what I mean by that is the idea of the presumption of innocence. While
Yes.
some of that does come out of Christianity and Jewish scholars, it was adopted wholesale by and large by European liberals and Europe as a whole. In a places where it's not really in other places like it has been in a lot of those places. And this idea, especially America, we ratified it as law. Most other places it was always just like a cultural idea, whereas in America it's one of our legal tenets. It's
Yeah.
it's
But
supposed to be sacred.
here, let me give you an example. All right, and the
Yep.
reason why it's a bit it's a bit outrageous from my point of view. Let's say you're walking down the street, right? The
Mhm.
average lady and her average husband, right, or an average family, right? Not me. I'm belligerent. But the average person, right? They're walking down the
Sure.
street, and coming down the street at them is a group of black urbanites yo-yoing down
Yep.
the street, right? So
Wait, do they have yo-yos or are they saying yo?
they
What's
yo 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 yo, right?
I thought maybe they were yo-yo tricks.
But you
I
know
didn't
what I
know
mean.
where you were going.
But yet, so the family crosses the street to the other side to get away from it because they feel
Yeah,
threat. They feel a threat.
sure.
Now, any of us, I don't know, black people will call that out and say that's racist. Nah, dude, that's called survivalism, right?
Yes.
Because half of all crime in the country is caused by that kind of urbanite, right?
Yeah.
But at the same time, though, say that same family is walking down the street and there's another family coming down the street, a black family, normal, just like
Yep.
them. They wouldn't cross the street
Right.
because it's just normal people. They're not some yo-yo urbanite that could gangbang them, right? Well, I'm just right.
I like how you describe them. Yeah.
Well, you know what I mean. I grew up with some of these dudes. I know right well, but I'm just
Oh, me
saying.
too.
But so there's a balance here. Not all blacks. It's just that
Correct.
type of black. And the same thing if they
Sure.
were a bunch of a bunch of wiggers walking down the street, they would cross the
Yeah.
street as well, right?
Yeah.
So I mean, it's not a universal. But with Jews,
Correct.
oh no, fuck the Jews, right? It's like
Well,
what?
and I'm telling you why. It's
Yeah, I
because they're
get it,
not
but
delineating.
it's
They're
outrageous,
not
dude.
separating themselves. Just like when the big scandals were happening with the Catholics and the priests and all this, there were a lot of they don't get the credit they deserve. There was a lot of Catholics who stood up and were saying that this, we shouldn't be doing this. This is wrong.
Oh yeah,
Clearly, obviously, it's wrong.
because it
That's the
was.
difference. And what happens is there are a lot of Jews, actual very Orthodox and otherwise Jews, who are against all the nonsense, and they're open about it, and they say
Oh
it's
yeah,
wrong, and
the
this,
Orthodox
that, or
guys
whatever.
can't stand the Zionists, by the way.
Yes,
Yeah.
that's my point. Is there needs if they want to be treated with that same nuance that we're talking about, they have to start calling out their bad actors publicly and directly by name. They
Yeah,
have
no,
to do it.
I understand, but I just think there's something more deep seated, because
Could be.
it just is
Well,
irrational.
it's old. It's old hatred. Like this isn't new. We've talked about on here.
Yeah,
The
we have.
Christians were persecuted by the
Still
Jews
are.
before they were the Romans.
Still
In a
are.
ways, I mean, It was the Jewish leaders who were paying the Colosseums and things to get the Christians fed to lions.
That's right.
That's the truth.
Well,
That's a
go to
fact.
Samaria today. Go to Jerusalem today.
Yeah.
Go to a Jewish neighborhood as a Christian. See how they treat you. They will
Yes.
spit on you. They will kick you.
Hatred has a
Hatred.
way of infecting entire bloodlines. It stays around. It's one of the reasons why you know that we've always known that genetic memory is real.
Dude.
Because hate doesn't die with a person. It keeps going. And it's one of those things that that's my biggest argument for the devil, why he exists. Because for whatever reason, these old hatreds never seem to die. They just don't go away.
It's just, it seems more than nature, though. Oh, no. Let's not get philosophical here. All right. Eric says, if I see some yarmulke yo-yoing, I go the other way. Dude, me too. Well, no, I'm belligerent. We already established that. But yeah, no, I mean, it doesn't matter what kind of criminal you see coming at you. If they look criminal,
I'm just imagining full Orthodox Jews and their whole get-up doing yo-yo tricks.
They do, dude. They do. I've seen it. But yeah, if you see anything dangerous coming at you, what do? You move away from it, especially if you're with your family, right? It just is what it is. I use the urbanite, the black urbanite, as an example because that is something you can see quite easily, right?
Well, they would see nowadays. That's evil, vile racism, blah blah blah.
Oh yeah, whatever.
I don't
care.
I don't think it is. I think it's more of
survival,
pattern recognition of a potential threat.
That's exactly right.
Like I was saying, that's really all it is. I know it seems like it's deeper because it's so vitriolic, but one of the main reasons why it's so vitriolic against quote unquote the Jews as a monolith, even though they're not, is because it's so unpermitted. In every other country on the planet, except for the Arab ones, by and large, well, the East doesn't care, but over here, anywhere past India, basically, you're not allowed to talk about it, or you're encouraged to talk about it, or you're like America and there's mostly no rules against it. But Europe and stuff, they're not allowed. They're legally not allowed to say these sorts of things. They will go to jail.
Yeah,
so
in Europe,
in many
especially,
countries,
that's true.
Yeah,
that once again, that is part of the Zionist.
So that repression creates this simmer, right? This is why free speech is so important. It gets it out of there. Remember how I was talking about bad blood? That's what it's called, bad blood, that hatred in the blood.
Sure.
If you don't let that get expressed non-violently occasionally, it's going to start expressing itself violently because there's something in us as a species where occasionally, every so often, we just need to kill each other. It just is what it is.
Unfortunately,
it just happens.
I saw Dana White getting in a reporter the other day for trying to get him to control his fighters, and he's like, because the guy you give them a long leash, and he's like, leash.
Leash.
You hear yourself, dude? Free speech, man. Let me go over a couple of the chat before we get ahead too far away. Ben's talking about the in-between versions are used to test new features. Yeah, I kind of figured that.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Roger
it makes sense. I'm not saying it's wrong. I just interesting.
Well, like I said, Windows 11 I hate on my desktop, love on my laptop, right? Love my tablet. When a government is dependent upon banks for money, they are not the leaders of the government control situation, since the hand that gives it above the hand that takes money has no motherland. Well, that's not really true, but I get your point, though. So then the normalized version, we strip out the stuff people don't like, and we bring back the more traditional features. It's a process of refinement. Yeah, no one's bitching, dude. Like I said, I've always come back to Windows. I like Windows. I have no problem with it. People get bent out of shape, but then again, a lot of people are just kind of sitting, waiting for a reason to get bent out of shape.
They're already crooked, sitting crooked. They're just waiting for a reason to express it.
Dave says Rocky calls people yo-yos in the first movie coconuts too, dude. When that's where it's coming out of, right? When I was a kid, we still used the word coconuts.
I've never heard. That's a new one on me.
Foolish people, coconut, right?
Interesting.
Yeah, but
I thought I heard them all.
Well, it's from New York, East Coast side, and that's where I'm from. So
Oh, that's why.
Yeah.
Yankees.
Yeah, we Yankees.
Stay over there
Hey,
with your clams and
you
your
don't.
chowder. Get out of here.
You center country people got it good. You don't understand. We got to the west of us, we got the damn Quebecois, right? We got a
Yeah,
freaking
yeah,
freezing ass ocean to the east, and then you know what we got south? You know what we got south? Fucking New York.
that's
Yeah.
true.
So you
That is a
just
problem.
you be happy over there in your
Yeah,
little
but
Ohio.
listen, we got
God damn it.
Detroit,
Well,
so
fair.
and
That's fair.
Chicago. Shit,
That's fair.
we got two of them.
You do. Yeah. But the Yankees, we've been stuck in this little box. Maybe that's why they were so successful. I don't know. Um,
Yeah, probably.
and Eric's just being racist. You're an anti-Semite, Eric. Hey, Grimlock, what's up, dude? I'm gonna go get some coffee. Say hello to Grimlock and tell him what we're talking about. He'll love it.
Oh, he will love it.
Yeah.
He loves it when
Oh,
we
I
talk about
Oh, you heard.
racism, the racism.
Yeah, I was listening.
Was there anything wrong with urbanites yo-yoing down the street? Am I wrong?
Not not exactly.
See,
I
there
will
you go.
say,
I'll take that as a positive. I'm going to get some coffee. I'll be back.
I will say
Oh,
it's
go
it's
ahead.
it's funny and sad because I have experienced that, like
Yep.
where walking down the street, especially when I was in better shape. Even though I'm not the tallest person in the world, I'm a rather large half nigga. So and I know this because I've received this complaint a lot. See, me and the males in my family, well, we're not smiling people.
Mm.
So
Mhm.
I come walking down the street. It could be just like me and my brother. We don't smile, and we could be having the best day ever, like SpongeBob. But because we're walking down the street and we're not looking pleasant, I've seen people like, get out of their way.
Yep.
And also, bear in mind, you know what I look like. I am a very light dude.
Yes. Yes.
But just
It's
that,
a lot of it is
that
just the
walk,
energy you give off too, right? Like this.
yeah,
Some people just don't want to deal with other people's crap, and so it's just easier to get out of their way. And honestly, it's probably a good reaction. As much as people want to demonize it, what's the alternative?
yeah,
Let's say they're right. What if they're right and that is somebody looking for trouble, and so you just get somebody beat up or their family beat up or whatever, or let's
yeah,
say they're not right, but they react more negatively, and it becomes a problem, right? Because nobody wants somebody in their face yelling at them or something or treating them like they're a monster or whatever. I think the
yeah.
best alternative when fear is in the air or when it's just caution, whatever you want to call it, doesn't really matter. Is just get out of its way. Just get out of the way. Go to the other side.
Right?
Make way and just let let the ships pass in the night and let it be. Because everybody's got it. This is the biggest problem with the West right now is we've allowed a bunch of busybodies, self-righteous, sanctimonious pieces of crap to tell everybody else how evil and bad and wrong they are at all times when we spent literally hundreds of years eradicating that from our civilization as much as we could, yanking it out of positions of power and influence when it was the churches doing it, right? When you had the church out here telling everybody how sinful and wicked they were. We
Yeah.
went through multiple different wars and revolutions and all sorts to get rid of this influence in our lives in the way that it was, and then we replaced it with these idiots, these lefty cucks who continuously tell people how evil and wicked and bad they are because they don't want to walk down the street into a group of people they find dangerous. They're afraid are dangerous. How dare you not walk into danger? What are you, racist? Well, yeah. If my option is I walk into the lion's den or I walk around the lion's den, but be called a name, I'm walking around the lion's den every time. That's it. That's your answer. The answer is I'm going around because I'm not going to
Okay.
walk myself into a dangerous situation. I used to work. You know this. I used to work in a very dangerous neighborhood, and I would walk the streets of that neighborhood during the day. I'm not crazy enough to do it at night. But I would, go to the restaurants or whatever, go to Subway or go to the Rite Aid to get a snack, whatever. And yeah, there were times where I stopped. You know what I mean? Like I saw something coming, I
Right?
just waited, just let that walk by, let that go by. I don't need that trouble. Um,
That's the other thing. Knowing your surroundings. 'Cause,
yes, yes, and that's also what it is. It's just like Chester was saying. It's just a defense mechanism. It's not bad.
yeah,
It's not good. It just is. Some things just are. That's what these. That's my whole point. The sanctimonious, self-righteous person can't just let things exist. If something exists, it's either good or it's bad. But in their mind, mostly bad, if we're honest. And they don't have this sense of neutrality that most people exist in. Most of the world exists in a neutral state. It just does. It's just what works for them, right? It's completely amoral. Most people aren't moral agents. They're doing what they need to do to eat, basically, and to have a nice place to sleep, so they're not freezing in the cold. Uh, that is the reality for the vast majority of people. Even the people who are self-righteous and pretend like they're doing some great thing because they called out this person being evil racist because they didn't want to put themselves in a bad situation. Even them, they're still also just existing. They're just doing what they need to do, probably the bare minimum of what they need to do to
yeah.
continue up their standard of living that they are comfortable with. And that is the reality. Most people are not moral agents. Most people are not even agents. They're lizard brains. They're NPCs, as we call them, and they just go from one inherent desire to the other, satisfying it, and then they go home and sleep. That's pretty much it. That's their
Ben,
life. And that's
ben,
fine. That's fine. There's nothing wrong with that.
Ben's trying to pick a
Nothing.
fight.
Uh
But actually, I say they are binary. It's either do or
Yeah,
don't.
no, there is no such
You
thing
you
as non-binary. It's not
you
a real thing. It
oh.
doesn't
you
exist in
you.
reality. It's not real.
That's, but in that scenario, it's definitely binary. It's either I'm not fucking with that, or I'm gonna take my chances.
There is no such thing
Yeah,
as non-binary. It's not real. That's
correct.
just a woke illusion. But I was thinking while I was getting my coffee, there is one thing
Uh
I'd
oh.
cross the street for, though.
Tail?
No,
Nice looking
no.
woman? What do you got?
Well, when I was
Food?
younger, maybe. But no, dude, a pack of midget bikers.
That would just be
That
terrifying. That
shit's
sounds like hell on
terrifying, man.
earth.
They might Game of Thrones your ass. Yeah,
Uh,
I cross the street for that. But Ben just trying to pick a fight. You got to watch that Ben, dude.
gotta
Look,
watch him.
I'm gonna
Shit.
be honest. I'm gonna take my chances with that one.
With the midget bikers, dude, you're putting your life in your
'Cause
hands.
either way, it's gonna be. Think about it. Either way this turns out, you're gonna have a story to tell. Because if you just cross, just the act of crossing a group of midget bikers, that's not something you say every day. It's like you go into the bar, you get down, it's like, hey man, just pass the fucking group of midget bikers.
Yeah,
Get
dude.
the fuck out
Yeah,
of here.
dude. They're
But
they're
you go
they're
to that
they're
same bar
mean dudes.
and you just be like, I just got my ass kicked by a group of midget bikers. So it's like,
Yeah, but see,
either way, you have a story to tell.
yeah, but you could if you survived it. But the thing is, their
Yes.
everyday existence is absolute shit. They're angry. They're mean. They're mean.
Yeah.
Man, gotta watch it. Eek midgets creep me out, says Eric. I was just making a joke. And of course, here comes Ben. Okay. I don't know. I hear that it's neither good nor bad, which are binary options. So it's sounding rather non-binary to me. No, Ben. No.
If anything, it would be tripolar. There's three options. There's good, bad, or the middle, which is where most people exist.
It doesn't matter whether reality is gray or not. Humans
Ah,
don't work that way. Right? We
correct.
might be able to observe and see that reality has its kind of middle of the road thing, but humans don't work that way. We are binary, right? And
Mm.
we always are assessing everything we see. This is a survival mechanism built into, and I imagine animals that are the same as us. We're smart enough to see the meta, where an animal
Well,
probably
some of them.
can't, right? Well, you know what I mean. But we are assessing everything. That's when I saw the way back when this woke nonsense started. They were going on about you know what was it? What was the word they used? Uh, Objectifying. There's the word. That we were objectifying people, and it's like, yeah, hmm Every
Yeah,
human does it
people are
every single solitary day.
people
Every day.
people.
It's either
I'm just gonna. I
1 or
got my
0,
hand up.
baby.
People are
Go or
objects.
not.
That's just what people are, and we will continue to be objects whether you like the term or
Yeah,
not.
but it's built in. It's a survival mechanism built into your freaking DNA, dude.
Yeah.
We are objectifying everything we see. Is it safe or not? It literally is
Correct.
0, 1, right? Unless it's 1, 0, 0, 1, 0, 0, 1. And if
Well,
you get that reference, you are the baddest nerd on earth, dude.
the weird language policing. It's kind of what I was talking about while you were gone. We sacrificed the very corrupt, very wicked church for a new kind of church, right? We got rid of that influence out
That is
of
cooler, man.
most modern life for a new church. But it's this language policing that they do, where you're not allowed to objectify someone. That doesn't even make any sense. What does that actually mean? Humans, all human beings, in fact, all things are objects. All of them. Object just means thing. It means a thing in the universe. That's all it means. It is an object. So if you're saying you're objectifying me, what? That's a nonsense phrase. That doesn't mean anything.
No, it doesn't. Now, if they phrased it more that you're being hateful to me because of A, B, C, all right, fine.
Yes.
Because some people are hateful, and you shouldn't be that way, right?
Correct.
Unless it's just simply a survival issue, like the yo-yo urbanites, right? But I get it. But the thing is, I've actually met this non-binary. I love how the young people want to make their own word. We have a word in the English language for this. It's called androgyny, right? And and I've met so-called androgynous people, because keep in mind, this shit ain't new, right?
Correct.
It ain't new. There were plenty of people in the 80s that were all about the Victoria stuff. I met them, and they're play acting, Ben.
Uh-oh.
Look at my puppy.
They're not real.
They're not real. They're fake.
They're fake.
It's interesting that you said that word, the word androgynous. Remember, before you went on your assassination missions,
Yeah.
I was reading the agnostics, the Gnostic Gospels, the writings.
Oh, it's a good read.
And
yeah,
in their interpretation of what Jesus was saying, allegedly, is that God is an androgynous being. The real God, not the God that everybody thinks of. He's actually the bad guy.
the
real God that's beyond here, but way beyond him, is androgynous and without sex. I don't know. It just reminded me of it. I find that fascinating.
Well,
this thought concept.
We can imagine the concept of it, but we can't really understand something like that. It's just not built. We're not built into it. It's just like there is no such thing as new invention. It doesn't exist. There are discoveries often stumbled upon, but the human brain cannot go from A to Z. I know we like to say that's genius, but our brain we can't do that. There's no human that's ever done that. We go A, B, C, D, E, F, G, because our brain can't create new concepts that we're unaware of. It's just how it works. It just is what it is, right? We can see the concept of a androgynous being, of course, but we can't truly perceive it. It's like find a person that can actually understand oblivion. Bring them to me.
Or infinity. Bring that one to me too. We can understand the concept of it, but to truly know it is impossible.
You cannot.
Yeah. It's interesting because
you are awesome, Ben. Grey Jedis are cool. You're right.
I do like Grey Jedis, but I hate the fact what they've done to the culture around the Jedis. But that's a different topic. I find it interesting how much we put on as a species. This idea, this concept of being able to visualize things, how to perceive things. That's the word you perceive. When now we have the science that quite literally says that a very large portion, some studies say over half, of people are incapable of actually perceiving anything. They don't actually conceptualize in their brain. They can't do it.
Yeah, no, I saw that
study
too. That was weird.
You say apple to them, they think the word apple. They don't think of an apple.
Yeah,
right?
no, I
Like,
didn't. That surprised me. That study. Yeah,
yeah, that's
it
my
did
that to
surprise me.
me is mind-boggling and
Mm,
terrifying that there's this many people out
can't
here who
visualize.
are
Yeah,
just lizard-brained. That's
yeah,
it. They're lizard-brained people. They're basically meat robots. They are incapable of perceiving and perception beyond
mhm.
what you've said to them.
Right.
Right?
Although when you
That's
say
their whole
peach,
frame.
my perception might be different than yours.
Naughty.
Thank you.
No.
Thank you. And I'm letting Ben go and let him have his victory there, because of course in reality, great Jedi are not binary at all, are they? They've chosen both.
Yeah. They've chosen the third way,
They're
as
full
Hitler did.
binaries.
They're fascists. I get you. I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
They went the
It
Hitler
is
route. They
weird,
went with
Ben.
the third way.
Yeah, when I saw that study, that was like a year and a half ago or something, like 2 years ago, right? When I
Yeah.
saw that study, because I read that study, I couldn't believe I had no perception that people like that existed, and it's actually such a high percentage of people who
Yes.
literally can't visualize anything. Like I
They
don't
don't
know,
actually think.
why live?
They don't know any other way. They're they're basically very intelligent dogs.
I could.
That's what they are.
You're right, Ben. I have. Yeah. I'm not like those wops down in Boston and New York.
Boston. No, that I don't think we could be friends, Chester. If I had to listen to that accent all the time, I couldn't do it. Not even. Nope.
Well, I
No,
have
I couldn't do it.
eliminated it quite successfully, I think. Thank you. Anyway, I do have a couple things I need to get to before we get out today, because I do
Yeah,
need to
Grimlock.
leave.
Jeez,
Jeez,
he's just
Grimlock.
he's just monopolizing the time.
He is.
You know, it's funny. I wanted to say this because I say it all the time, and it's true, and I mean this.
Mhm.
You've seen the movie Gran Torino, right? The Clint Eastwood movie. It's interesting how much Clint Eastwood gets into race stuff. I find that
He
the
does
more
a
I
lot.
think about it, he does that a lot. He's
I
all
think he
about it.
finds it interesting.
But anyway, Gran Torino, the barbershop scene, the infamous barbershop scene where he comes in. He's in there a couple times, but he comes in, he brings the Korean kid in, and everybody gets shit on, is the idea, right? You go in there and you're going to get hit with something racist probably, or
yeah.
something something that would normally be very offensive. You're getting hit. Doesn't matter whether you're white, brown, yellow, whatever color your skin tint happens to be, you're probably going to get hit. And I say it all the time, that's the world I want to live in. And the reason why is because it's honest. Those people don't hate each other. It's not hatred
No.
that's why they're doing it. They're still working together, they're still talking, they're still serving each other. They're laughing, they're having a good time. It's honesty. An honest world is a world where people talk about these things
Yeah.
openly, and they don't pretend like it's some grand sin because somebody thinks
Right.
X, Y, or Z
Well,
about this group of people.
and it's also the male aspect, right? We're constantly busting each other's balls to kind of make sure the hierarchy is where it should be, right?
Every non-white friend I've ever had, and I'm only mostly white. Every non-white friend I've ever had, if I couldn't fuck with you, I wouldn't stay your friend.
No, of course
It's just
not.
that you can hit me, go at me, I don't care.
If you're in
But
the
yeah.
office and no one's busting your balls, they don't like you, dude.
Yes.
Plain and
Correct.
simple. Yeah, that's coming from a place of love. That's how men express love. Even here in Japan, it's more subtle. It's not as brutal as Americans can get. But it's just men. It's how we do. It's about organizing the hierarchy, because you got to understand, men work within a hierarchy, which is why we're so good at the things that we are good at, right? Women work within a community, a social group, right? Which is
A
why
herd.
they're so good at the things they're good at, right? We
Yep.
don't work the same way. And this constantly busting each other's balls is really just setting the hierarchy, and it's okay. It's how we work. But anyway, let's do this right here.
Hang on, I gotta open it up.
Political.
Discord's being weird. Okay, there we go. Who Donald Trump should and shouldn't pick for vice president? Oh boy.
Now,
Oh boy. Politico's got takes on what Donald Trump should do. I'm curious.
Have you ever met the dude? Yeah, he doesn't really give a shit what you think. But anyway, I thought it was very interesting what they chose here, because this is the hot topic. That who's Trump going to run with? who's he going to run with, right? It doesn't matter whether you like Trump or not. This conversation has nothing to do with that. It's just who's he going to pick, and they put a list here, and they have their opinions on it. And I just want to look at the choices here. Nikki Haley, are you out of your freaking mind?
I will campaign for Biden if he picks Nikki Haley. I'm not even kidding. I'll be pro Biden.
Trump already said he's not picking her. He already said it. So she's
out.
Anyway.
But if he did, no.
Yeah.
Keep Dementia Joe in there. It's fine. It's fine.
Yeah.
Keep him in there.
But so you got Nikki Haley. She's out already anyway, right? Then we got Mike Pompeo. I mean, he is a loyal governmental guy. He is a loyal American, I'd say, I guess.
Yeah. He's actually as much as I despise him for his neoconservatism, he is brilliant. He's genuinely an incredibly smart guy.
Yeah.
So Nikki Haley would be far worse. Let's put it that way. That would be much worse.
He's not picking her anyway. That would be a stupid choice.
I can see Pompeo.
I can.
The only problem with Pompeo is he doesn't have anything. Like he doesn't have any following really.
That's right.
He's not.
This
that
would be
guy.
a milquetoast choice, like freaking.
Yes.
I can't remember his name. Who was his last vice president?
Pence.
Yeah, milquetoast.
Mike
Same
Pence,
kind of
MP.
choice. Yeah, and actually Pompeo is more well known than him. I highly doubt this. But okay, they put it in here. All right. Tim Scott.
Look how small the thing is for Tim Scott.
Because he's
one
black.
Paragraph,
he's a black conservative, right?
Sorry, that tickled me. That's hilarious.
Tim.
That is the perfect answer for Tim Scott.
Yeah.
This is why you don't. You can barely get a paragraph out of describing why he should. That's the problem.
Yeah. But he would be that kind of progressive, stomp that would make it a little bit difficult for them to get on it because he's a black guy.
One paragraph.
Let's be honest. A website like Politico isn't going to say anything positive about any black that isn't like Ibram X fucking Kendi. So I'm not surprised if they did that.
That's true. And that's also why I chose Politico.
It's funny that they went with it,
but because I actually chose Politicos because there's many articles talking about this. I chose this one specifically. Tim Scott, no, dude, not happening. Now, Carrie Lake, that's a possibility. You have a minority, you have a woman, and you have, as they put here, a true believer. That's not a bad choice.
She is pretty good looking too, especially for her age.
Not bad at all. That too. She's camera friendly. Yeah, that's true.
Yes.
Yeah. So I mean, not a bad choice there with Carrie Lake. I don't know how much of a possibility it is though. But that would be a fair choice. I can see that happen. And of course, politics, whether Trump is a politician or not, he's surrounded by politicos, right? Literally.
Yeah.
So for their point of view, this is a stellar choice for them, right? This one right here is exciting as shit, dude.
Here's the problem. I don't think Tucker wants anything.
No, I don't think so either.
He's been pretty clear about that. But he would be my pick if I was in Trump's shoes. If I could get Tucker, why wouldn't you? And the reason being is, you're not going to win over lefties with Tucker. That's fine. You weren't going to win them over anyway.
He's a libertarian, true libertarian.
If you're trying to win over these left-leaning Republicans by picking your VP, that's not going to work. They're not coming, Trump. I'm sorry to tell you, they're not. So what you need is someone who can excite the people who might come, right? The people who are undecided or the people who are in the true middle. Tucker is one of those people who can talk to them. And I think
know who should be his vice.
I think Tucker has the ability
hold it.
to express himself in a way that gets to normal people. There's a reason he had the biggest show on cable news. There's a reason his stuff on Twitter and wherever else he's doing it is huge.
Killing it, yeah.
Normal people listen to him because even though, yes, he's a trust fund kid and he's very rich, he's very open about that.
Yeah.
He actually seems to care about it.
Whether
he does or not.
No,
he speaks like he does.
He definitely
I think he does too.
Because
but let's say it's all a show.
He doesn't
correct.
have to
Let's say it's all a show. let's say it's all just a show, at least he's competent at performing that role. Whereas these other people, none of them have that ability. I honestly, and I've been saying this for years, if Tucker Carlson runs for president, I don't think he loses. I'm being completely honest with you.
No.
If it's a fair election, there's no fuckery, or he doesn't do something really stupid, I don't see him losing, because I know too many non-political Americans who sound just like Tucker Carlson when they're complaining about politics.
Right.
Exactly like him.
And, that's why him as a VP, then going into 8 years potentially after that, could be a very interesting thing. Because I don't know, you might get mad at me, but I have a feeling that a Tucker Carlson presidency would be rather Teddy Roosevelt-ish.
I agree. I think he understands the value of the federal government spending money where it should, and not spending money where it shouldn't, which is one of Teddy's defining attributes. It wasn't that he wouldn't spend money. Teddy spent some money, but he spent it where it should be spent. And it was why he's probably our best president of all time. I mean, there's a debate there, of course, but he's definitely in that conversation.
Yeah, he should have ran another term.
Yeah.
But it is what it is. Any opinions on this, Grimlock? Hold who you think it should be, though. Hold that till later. What do you think of Tucker here?
I think Tucker would be a good choice. I don't think I don't know if he's interested enough in politics, because he's in a good spot right now. I think
he is, dude. Yeah.
They always, the saying is a gangster knows when he's got it good, and right now, I mean, Tucker at this stage in his life professionally, and I would imagine personally, he's got to be doing freaking
he's very
amazing
happy,
right
as
now.
he said when someone asked him. He said he's very happy.
Ben says,
Do you want to jump into the swamp?
Who's MTG?
Marjorie Taylor Greene.
Oh. Do I not? I don't know. No, I think I do know her. She's literally not even on the list, is she? But anyway, Tucker, interesting name to throw in here. And to be honest, we've seen him travel around with Trump recently.
Yep.
So it's interesting. JD Vance, did you smoke something before you wrote this?
JD Vance had a lot. He's from my state. He is a senator from this state now. He's been doing, as far as I know, I haven't kept up with him enough that I probably should. But what I've seen, he's been doing fine. I don't think there's a chance in hell that
No,
JD. He's not. Happening. He's a nobody right now. He's a one-term senator who barely got elected. So I don't think it's there. Is my point. I don't think that's where you want to put him. Maybe he's young still too. I don't think he's much older than me. If he might even be younger than me for all I know. So he's got time. He's got time to cook, basically. Whereas Trump doesn't have time. Trump's going to get one more shot at this. It'll be this year. Yep. And he's got to pick a killer. That's what he's got to pick.
Yeah. And then they go into the other contenders here. So we have Kristi Noem. Maybe. I mean, she's done a good job as a governor, it seems. I don't know as much about her as I do DeSantis. But it seems like she's doing a good job over there. Sarah's a governor now of Kentucky. Arkansas, sorry. Why would she step out of that? And Sarah's got a bad attitude, not a bad attitude, but she get mad. Sarah gets mad.
She got a temper on her.
She got a temper on her, dude. But, nothing against Sarah. Let her do her Arkansas thing. See if she could do it as well as her daddy. Because her papa, Mike Huckabee, he was from all I've heard, he was an excellent governor of Arkansas.
That's what I've heard. Yeah. Obviously, I don't live in Arkansas, but yeah.
Well, it's like most people don't even notice that. It's like, yeah, they just
I like what Maple Chic said over here. I like what Maple Chic, our boy Captain Canada, said over here. He would like Vincent Kennedy McMahon to be his vice president.
Oh, that would be awesome.
Oh my God. Oh, in another world, in another time, in another place, Vince McMahon is a politician, and it's glorious. Yeah. It would be the most glorious spectacle you've ever seen. You think Trump understands spectacle? Imagine Vince McMahon at a rally. Imagine him. Holy crap! It'd be WrestleMania every week. It'd be huge, bro.
But I mean, Christie is not a horrible choice, although Carrie Lake is probably more ahead of that choice, I'd say. But
Yeah.
this one here is interesting. Elise Stefanki. Um, now,
Phonic.
so whatever the hell her name is, this is what you call a soccer mom with a shrill
Yeah.
voice. It will never
Yeah.
happen.
Not if he's smart, and Trump isn't stupid. So
Yeah. I mean, she might be good, and people might like her because of her ideas, and she's very Trump-esque. She's a Trumpian, I'd say. But that's a soccer mom, dude, without question. And her voice is way too shrill, way too shrill.
yes,
Um,
I agree. I don't
yeah,
even know who Kim Reynolds is. I think I've heard
no,
that name
I don't
before.
either. Do you know who this is, Grimlock? Never heard of her.
I have no idea who that is.
Apparently, the Iowa governor. Apparently,
Yeah, I have no clue who this person is. But that's why she's in the other group.
he might throw a total curveball and it be somebody nobody even expects.
It could
I
be.
mean, it's Trump.
It could be.
He is
But
known for these curveballs.
no, of course he is. But here's the thing, though. Here's the thing. If you look at that list, there's a couple names that aren't on there that should be in the top half of the list. Right? Now,
Yeah.
Grimlock, you said you know who we should pick. Who is it?
Uh-oh.
There's only one logical pick if he really wants to unite the world. His vice president should be R-Truth.
Our truth. That's fair. That is true.
Yes.
Yeah. Because he's the
He could clean up.
five-time
No, that's
five-time.
Booker.
He could
That's
clean.
Booker.
Five-time
No,
world champion.
he could clean up. No, because he could clean up.
He could clean up. That's
That
true.
MAGA reputation, he could change it to MAGA, live, laugh, love.
No, I know I got it wrong, Thundero, but it's still funny.
Oh, see, Chester hasn't been watching wrestling lately. He doesn't understand how hilarious R-Truth is. The man is effortlessly funny.
No,
I love
I've
him.
seen him. He's funny as hell. I know that. I like R-Truth. He's a lot better than that. What was this world's strongest man? Mark Henry.
Mark
Yeah,
Henry.
Mark's
Yeah.
not very funny.
They didn't get Mark until the end when they finally.
Yeah, they didn't get him right until the Hall of
House
Pain.
of Pain, or yeah, whatever it was, gimmick. Oh, that was so good.
Yeah.
But it took a while
Ben
to
likes
get
it.
there.
He's on board for R-Truth. Fair enough. Well, who do you think he should pick?
Me, Tucker.
Yeah. Tucker.
He should.
It would
he
be
should do
interesting,
whatever
dude.
Tucker requires to get Tucker on that ticket.
It would be very
He's gonna
interesting.
probably pick a woman because,
He'd
like they said, he
landslide that
wants
shit,
to.
though.
I think you would. I gotta put the thing on there because I don't care if people don't like it. If the elections aren't screwy, Tucker and Trump would be unbeatable.
Yeah.
No,
it would be.
The only problem you're gonna have is you have to get Trump back to what got him elected in the first place. What got him elected in the first place is he was speaking to the problems of the terrible, evil white working class that no one's ever allowed to pander to in politics at the federal level. So he was doing this, and it's why he got that vote in a percentage that I don't think anybody's gotten since Reagan.
Well, I saw his Iowa acceptance, and he was on that again.
That's what he needs to be. If he wants to win, that's who he needs. Stop trying to chase a bunch of other demographics that just aren't going to come in the numbers that you need them to be worth the effort. So go after the one that will get you elected, that did get you elected the first time, and just press hard on that. And a guy like Tucker is perfect for that.
It would be really interesting. It would be super interesting to see that because I don't envision Tucker doing that kind of thing, but I'd vote for Tucker. I would. But here's the thing.
I'd have to see what he wants to do, but probably from what I've seen of his interviews and his show and what he purports himself to believe in.
He's a libertarian, dude. He's straight up libertarian.
I think Tucker is he's a libertarian nationalist, which is important.
Yeah, well, that's
because that's basically what we were talking about earlier.
Because Trump's a nationalist as well, but he is pro-America. But I find it very interesting on this poll, on this opinion piece here, this editorial from Politico. There's two names that don't show up at all. One, Ron DeSantis.
That's interesting. Yeah, that's often what happens, right?
That's
The
often what
number two
happens
guy
because he
pulled
will
in.
be the number two guy.
Yeah,
And that's normally what happens. The number two guy becomes a VP. That's kind of standard for a very long time.
yep.
And Biden broke away from that in choosing literally the last person on the
The worst
on the stage,
possible
the
person.
last one.
Well, he didn't choose her. Let's be honest.
Well,
His
that's fair.
handlers.
He didn't choose her, but
Yeah,
so DeSantis is not anywhere on the list, and it doesn't make any sense
that's
at
right.
all because
I agree.
DeSantis Trump would be a strong ticket, and
It
DeSantis
would.
he's not as exciting or interesting as Trump, fair enough, but he's good at governance. He's good
He's
at it.
good at the job.
He is,
Yeah.
right? But you know who else isn't on this list? Someone that is getting huge pops, dude. Huge pops.
Your boy, the
Vivek
brown Jesus.
Brown Jesus.
I'm gonna
Dude,
call him the
he's
brown Jesus.
getting major pops, man.
He is.
He
It's
really
mostly
is.
just because he's taken Trump from 2015's playbook and turned it up to 11
Yeah.
when he just calls these people out on their nonsense. And it's hard. They can't. Their big gun they can't use against Vivek because he's a brown man. So they can't just call him racist and
And
then
he
that's
knows
it.
it.
He's racist now. Yeah. So he swings as hard as he possibly can and he takes heads. But he also the one thing that I'll give Vivek that is very interesting. While he will do that to the people who I think deserve it, and he would obviously agree, when it comes to normal people, he's gracious, which is very interesting,
Oh yeah,
and
he's
why
a
I think
full-on
he's been
politician.
so successful.
Yeah,
Yeah,
he's
when it
full-on
comes to
politician.
like you'll see him, he'll go give talks, and there'll be a few protesters, maybe one or two. He'll come up to him and talk to him, and be
Yeah.
like, "What's? Why don't you come in here?" And and literally, I seen one where he literally invited the protester in to come talk at the podium. That kind of stuff you don't see a lot in American politics willfully. There's sometimes where that situation gets forced,
Roger.
but that sort of personal populism, I'll call it, is very rare from the two big parties, and I
Yep.
think it's one of the reasons why he's been able to put himself now in an incredible position going forward. Even if Trump doesn't pick him for VP, he's not going away. Vivek will be
No, he's
around
not.
as a force for a while.
And you're right, they have become complete elitists. That is true.
Yes.
But this guy is interesting. He's a full-on politician, which means he's absolute shitbag, right?
Yes.
But he's got it down, dude. He's well practiced,
Smooth.
right?
He's very
Um,
Obama-like.
He is.
Smooth.
He's smooth. He knows how to use his voice. He knows how to play his advantage. He's a pure politician, right? And when I first heard about him, I was like, whatever. There's always a few that try to get a little bit of glom off of the front runners, right? And that's what he's doing, of course. That's exactly what he's doing. However, the amount of people that are talking about this dude as VP is shocking. And you're right. He really likes to play the people's character. For instance, the other day I was watching Nerdrotic and Benny, which Benny's more connected to politics anyway. But Benny pulled Vivek on. And he was on Nerdrotic,
That's
chatting,
interesting.
happy, smiley, happy, very happy to be there. Not just really relaxed as he always is, right? And I was like, well, there you go. Right, that's a huge
Yep.
pop for Nerdrotic. That's for damn sure. Quarter Black was over there, and his
That's
crew.
one of the things, like I was talking about, that Trump was doing. Now, obviously not on YouTube channel, but when it came to reaching his hand out to the people you're not supposed to in Washington,
Mhm.
Tucker's talked about this. There's a secret, not secret agreement to politics in Washington D.C. that we don't reach out to those people. The working class, the true working class
Right.
of all colors, but mostly the white working
Well,
class.
he does.
We give them handouts and tell them to go away and shut up. We give them $1,200 when we shut down their job, tell them to go away and shut up, stuff like that. But we don't actually talk to them, listen to their concerns. Whereas Vivek seems to. He'll actually talk to them. This is one of the reasons Bernie got so popular back in the day. Now he's
That's
completely sold out,
Yeah,
but that's how he
Oh,
got popular.
that is true.
Was he would talk to the working people. He's what do you need, basically.
Yeah.
And that is what their job is supposed to be. But like you said, it's become so elitist now, they've forgotten themselves. They are supposed to be our servants, not our
Yeah,
lords. We're
that's
not
right.
electing masters here. We're
That's
not
not how it is.
picking our kings.
Yeah.
They're supposed to be doing our job, the job of the people, in helping the people to thrive, not themselves.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying Trump is necessarily that guy. I don't necessarily believe he is. But that is supposed to be what happens. Maybe that's idealistic, sure. But Vivek and guys like a younger Bernie prove that you can build a political career doing it. Ron Paul did the same thing. You can build a political legacy and career doing it. And I think you can get to the presidency nowadays doing it as well. If you already have, Trump has a huge advantage, obviously. If he didn't have that advantage, I think Vivek may have actually won the nomination. If
That's
Trump wasn't
interesting.
around, I think he might have knocked DeSantis out eventually. Because
Maybe.
DeSantis, for all of his accomplishments as a governor, and there are many, and the fact that he's not a good politician.
No,
He's
he's not
not.
charismatic. He's boring.
No.
But
Yeah.
and in the Sanskrit, it's Vivek. Is
Yes,
how you
I am
pronounce
aware.
it. The
But
vowels
I
have
like
different.
the way it's pronounced in Morrowind. Damn it, he's Vivek.
Oh,
It's
fine.
way cooler.
It is cooler. You are correct. But nevertheless, it shows you 100% of the things that I've been, and Thundero and Grimlock and everybody's been on here has the same opinion. But I've been saying for years and years, dude, it's not race, it's culture. It's culture.
Yeah.
Because this is definitely not what you think of when you think American,
No.
right? And seeing
No.
as 80% of the country is white, right? Now, some of them break
Legend.
themselves off and say, we're Latinos. Yeah, okay. All right, fine then. You do realize
You
that's
got blue
white
eyes.
European,
Calm
right,
down.
dumbass? But whatever. He's definitely not that. But
Yeah.
yet people love this guy, right? Because
Well,
it's
I
culture.
would say he's very spiritually and culturally white, right?
Oh, he's an American.
He has
He's American.
He has a lot of Europeanistic American traits, right?
Well,
not all, and this is the honest to God's truth. I would say maybe even most of his ethnic community, the Indians, are like
well,
that.
they are
come here
our
and they
ancestors,
like
you know.
that. Yes.
They are
Well,
related
the
to
Aryan
us.
ones anyway.
Yeah, the Aryan half, yeah. But then again, we
Yeah.
don't know what was going on before that really bad cataclysmic time. We
True.
know that the Aryans, or Cro-Magnon, if you'd rather, were in the Americas, right?
Yep.
And clearly, with all the islands and stuff in the Atlantic, they were sailing all over the place. They were known as amazing sailors. That was their main forte, right?
Mhm.
They were everyone considered them amazing sailors. Even the Indian chronicles talk about it, right?
Yep.
So they were probably in the Europeans anyway, and then we don't know what happened. I'm not going to get into the anthropology of it, but we definitely have a connection to them. We absolutely
Yep.
do. Now, some people say no, they have a connection to us. Either way, I don't care, right?
Doesn't matter.
But it
It's
does.
a distinction without any difference.
But my point is, he's not Indian. He's American.
Yes.
Right. Whereas,
well, that's what I was saying. Is a lot of his quote unquote people, his ethnic people, aren't like that. They come here
No.
and they do not assimilate like he
No, not at
obviously
all.
has.
Not at all.
And that's a good thing. I would rather him come here and assimilate, and especially since he's tearing down all these reporters too. I'll say it again. Nobody hates journalists enough. Simple
No,
as
that's
that.
true.
They deserve it.
But
they're trash people. Anyway, I love watching him do that.
Yeah, no, it is
I love
fun.
it.
He's clearly born in America, though.
Yeah.
He's not an immigrant.
Yeah.
His parents might have been, or his great
No,
grandparents.
that's what I'm saying, though. It is the people who typically come from there, and I only know this because I've dealt with them in business, and my wife deals with them all the time in renting them apartments. Oh man, they just don't assimilate like people wish they would. Like
and a
we
lot of
think they
people
would.
don't, and that is what it is. I get it. But you can make very, because Nikki Haley is another Indian, right?
Yes, yes. I love watching him just tear into her.
Well, she's
because he's allowed. You see, in the new rules of the universe, as long as you're the same color, roughly, you can say just about anything to each other. You can go all in, and he just does. He just tears her apart, and I love it because she is a trash person, garbage human being, and deserves every bit of it.
She's pure politician, pure Washington D.C. is what she is. Now, this fella right here, another Indian, right? The
Big
commander
ears.
and king of Britain right now. Although I think kicking him out. But here's a huge difference, right? This guy also was born in Britain, right? His family, of course, the Indians have been in Britain for a very long time, right? Going back to
Yeah.
the imperial age, right? But
Kind of did that to
born in
themselves.
Britain. But what's the big knock on this guy? There are many, but the big one, this guy is much more interested in making deals and making India better than he is in making the Britain better. He's
Yeah.
very pro India. He does a lot of things to give them advantages over Britain. And you would think the prime minister of Britain wouldn't be doing that shit, but that's what he does. So here's an Indian that is not of his culture. He is
Mhm.
his grandparents or great grandparents or whatever his situation is. It's their
And that
culture.
happens a lot.
It happens a lot,
The
an
grandchildren,
awful
for
lot.
whatever reason, the grandchildren revert
They
to
do.
paying more homage to their grandparents than they do their parents, who
Yeah.
often, struggled very hard to assimilate themselves, and then
Right.
the children, their children or their grandchildren are like, nah, screw all that. We want to take care of our people or whatever. That happens a lot, which I find it's a very strange phenomenon. It happens in America a lot too. You'll have first generation immigrants who are largely, especially Latin American immigrants, largely not political. They stay out of it. They just get to work and make money and do that. And then their children will be more political, and their grandchildren will be the crazy ones that you see
Yeah.
out here
Yeah.
doing all kinds of nonsense that are super political. That's just a very strange phenomena that it happens across racial groups, ethnic groups. For whatever reason, usually that third generation in is where it starts to get crazy.
Real
start to get
troublesome,
very
yeah.
political.
But
Yeah.
if you take a look here, now we're on Twitter, and they always have these bio things, right? You see, he's got Prime Minister of UK and he's got the British flag, right? Now,
As of
I
this
would
moment,
be
Chester, all I see
interested
is
to
his
see.
face.
Oh well, I'm looking at it, yeah, myself.
Okay.
Let me.
Hey, who's this Herman Munster looking at again?
Thank you,
He's the current Prime
Minister
Minister of
of Britain.
Britain.
All right, here, take a look at this Twitter. Now, you see he's got
Looking
Prime
like he's
Minister
looking
of
for Grandpa.
United Kingdom, and he's got the British flag. Now, I would be really interested to see what his Twitter page looked like 10 years ago, right? Because a lot of these people we're talking about, these second, third, fourth generation people, they will put on Twitter, they'll put their flag of the country they're in, but it's
Yes.
second.
Yes.
And they often put the flag of their ancestors in first. And I would love to see what his looked like 10 years ago, to wonder on that. But here's the difference. Here's an Indian who is in a leader of a country who is not for his country. He's for a foreign country, right? But here's a dude that is obviously mega super nationalistic, pro America first guy. He's not. I don't even know if he mentions India ever, because it's not his home. It's not his culture. He's an American, right?
Yeah.
But I don't know. It's interesting that Politico didn't mention Ron DeSantis at all, or Vivek.
No Ron nor Vivek. Neither got
You got to
even
stick
a
with that
blurb.
just because it irritates me, aren't you?
I am, yeah, and because it's cooler. We agree that it's a much cooler name, Vivek.
I am a philologist, sir. But
Listen,
anyway.
I didn't spell it wrong. Blame him. Blame his parents for spelling it
fair
wrong.
enough.
I can't. It's not my fault.
Yeah, so sad. Yeah. But anyway, it's interesting. I don't know what's going to happen, of course. I don't even know if they can get Trump back in the White House. I don't know.
We'll see. We'll see how corrupt our system actually is. We're going to see. We're going to learn real quick this year.
Oh, yeah. And
We're
what do
gonna
you think
find out.
happens if we get the same bullshit we got in 2020?
I don't know,
gun
man.
sales are going to go up.
Yeah, we're going to see more gun sales. That'll happen. What I don't want to happen is what probably will happen and probably needs to happen. And that's secession. And the reason I don't want it to happen is because I don't believe that the people who are the psychopaths in Washington, just like the last one who did it, will let them go. Because all the highfalutin talk about the old Civil War, about there's a moral crusade, that's all BS. It was because Lincoln didn't want to be the one to lose the Union. That's why it happened. So he invaded them, 100%. He didn't want that blemish on his legacy because that's all he was concerned about.
Well, Lincoln was
He wrote about it. Yeah, he was horrible.
Yes.
He was a terrible person. But he gets lionized as this near godlike figure because
He was a
slavery.
tyrant, actually.
Yes.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, I always thought that was weird growing up. And when I was a little kid, I went to school and we were all taught that. And I'm technically related to the dude, not by blood, because my aunt Betty married Charles Lincoln, a direct descendant, right?
Interesting.
So, by marriage. And my daughter, when she was little, was really cute. She used to keep a penny in her pocket, and when she was real little, like 4 or 5, 6, right?
By
And
default, we should boo you.
well, fair enough. You should. But when she'd meet people, she'd take the penny out and say, "That's my uncle." It was cute.
That is cute.
It is cute. But whatever. So I don't know what's going to happen, but it's definitely going to be interesting.
Well, this
his
year,
name,
Chester,
yeah,
the Texans, the Texas nationalist movement, the secessionist movement, has won, and they, as of now, last I checked, it's going to be put up for a vote. Now, it's probably going to fail, but it's going to be put up for a vote for Texas to secede from the Union
again,
because
well,
Texas has that authority.
they
to do
do,
so
and
in their
Biden is being a
constitution.
real shit. Well, not
Yeah.
Biden, but his people.
Well,
yeah,
all right,
no, it'd
yeah.
be interesting to see because
Biden's eating ice cream. That's what Biden's
that's what he's doing. But I mean,
enjoying his ice cream.
I don't know that it'll happen. But if Texas did secede, I bet you a bunch of little states would join in with them.
Oh, they'd become countries, but yes.
Yeah.
I think, unfortunately, and I've said this before, I don't want a civil war in this country. I just don't see an alternative to the way it's been going, because both sides are dug in, and no one will talk, no one will listen, and no one will give. So something's got to give,
Right.
and that will be the peace.
To keep in mind, the only civil war we had, if you don't count the revolution, because that was a civil war as well, right?
Correct.
But we, anyway, the Civil War, the one that happened 170 years ago, 160 years ago, there was no need for there to be a civil war at all. This is something that people don't understand. The only reason there was a civil war is because Lincoln needed one.
Yep.
He made that happen. There was no need for a civil war at all. And when you hear Southern people, when they refer to the Civil War as the War of Northern Aggression, they are not wrong at all. They are 100% correct. And when you get into later shit, because they were winning in the beginning, and then, well, I'm not going to get into a long history of it. But when frickin' what was his name? Jackson? No, Grant. When Grant came down, he's another person you go in your book and it's talk about this great hero. That guy was a butcher. He was a butcher.
He was a monster.
He was much more interested in killing women and children than he was soldiers.
Yes.
Right? And he killed a lot of them. People don't talk about it whatsoever. But nevertheless, and I'm from the North. I'm a Yankee. Pure blood. Well, not pure. My dad's from the South. But I'm in my brain. I'm a Yankee, right? I'm not no Southern person. But whatever. But it is interesting, dude, where we're coming with this stuff. Because if they pull off that shenanigans again, I don't know what's going to happen in America. But honestly, I think the landslide that is coming may be insurmountable for them.
We had better hope that's what happens, to be honest with you, because as much as, there are people in this country who deserve every bit of that hell, most of us don't. Most people in America are decent people. They don't deserve what a civil war will be, especially a modern one, because it ain't going to be like before. Before it was brutal. We've prettied it up and romanticized a lot of it, but when you think about what happened to the South, especially, it was genocide. Let's call it what it was. I mean, that's what they were doing. It was.
No, it's straight up.
And this would be worse by a factor of at least 10, because it would be everywhere. This idea that people have, you see, one of the great benefits of the Second Amendment is the ability to resist tyranny. That's the point of it. It's also the ability to be secure in your own possessions from all forms of molestation. The biggest issue with the Second Amendment is that everybody can get a gun. Now, people say, well, it's leftist shit. No, listen to me. Everybody can get a gun.
Oh, yeah.
So if it pops off and you can't trust your neighbor anymore, you're in danger.
Yeah, you are.
And it will be everywhere. There will be no safe haven. There will be no place you can go where that's not the case.
Hatfield and McCoy, baby.
Yep. The more purple an area is, the more of a battleground it will become.
Yeah.
My point is, this is not something anyone should actually want.
No.
But sometimes, like I said at the beginning, we get this in us. We get this bad blood, as it's called by the ancients. It's bad blood gets, and you just got to get it out. And unfortunately, when you don't let it, when the system refuses to be reformed, that is the only alternative.
Mhm.
And nobody likes it. Nobody's going to enjoy it except the psychopaths who actually enjoy hurting people. But I do think it's inevitable at this point
Yeah.
because they just won't listen. And the people in the middle, and I don't mean politically, I mean the people literally living in the middle of the country are tired of not being listened to. And I do think it's going to get ugly. And they're
Yeah.
going to try to secede like they did before. Now, granted, a lot of the reason they were seceding was nonsense. I agree. But they still had the right to do it under the original Constitution. They're going to try and do it again. And we're just going to see what happens.
It was
Because I just don't
economical.
think. I know. I don't think it's gonna. I don't think the U.S. as we were raised in it, the 50 contiguous states, is sustainable with this level of one, immigration that's been happening, of legal or illegal, two, corruption at the top. The reason why Caesar was correct and able to do what he did, and they killed him for it, was the corruption in Rome. The capital was corrupt as hell.
Right.
The reason he was able to march across the Potomac and
Potomac.
the Potomac. The reason he was able to do that is because the people were so tired of it. They were tired of the corruption by the top. And he was the most popular politician, besides apparently Joe Biden, in the history of the world. So he was able to walk across and seize Rome in a way that no one had done before him, really. Now, obviously, they killed him for it, but his successor, well, greatest ruler of all time.
I'm going to let
However,
you. I have to stop your dangling. It's called the
Go.
Rubicon.
I know. I was thinking of Washington. But the Rubicon, yes. But the reason why he was able to do that, like I said, was all the corruption. It was his successor that set about to fixing the corruption in a way Caesar wasn't able to. He wasn't the man for that job, but he was the man to start the process. And
Yeah, no.
I think
His
that is
adoptive
unfortunately
son was the
literally
solution.
he adopted him like 2 months before he died or something like
Yeah,
that.
because he
Like
saw
just
some
crazy
genius
stuff.
in him, and he was right.
And he was right. Yeah. But regardless, I just don't see us getting back America coming back to the America that we want it to be, right? That most people want it to be. All the mythology that we've built around this country,
Mhm.
that's how people want it to be.
Sure.
You have to understand the normal person wants to believe in that. I want to believe in that. I'm cynical as hell. It's
Yeah.
just not real anymore. And the only way it's going to get to a point of realism is we're going to need, I'm going to give you another historical reference, the Germans to come sack Rome. That's what we're going to need to fix the problem. Just as they did before, and I don't mean literal Germans, but you get my meaning. The people from the hinterlands, the people who are treated disrespectfully by the capital, by the elite.
The Huns, the Hussar.
The Huns, the barbarians, the ones they consider the bad people, are going to need to take control and in some way, and maybe it isn't fully of Washington, even if it's just of their own states and their own situations, and correct the problem. Look at Florida. Everybody can hate on DeSantis now, right, left, or whatever, because he had a terrible run for president. That's fine. But there's a reason why Florida was growing and is still growing exponentially every year.
Good management.
It's because he's a good governor. He's a good manager.
Yeah.
That is what needs to happen. And I know a lot of lefties don't like him for various reasons. A lot of it's nonsense, and that's fine. You don't have to like it. Medicine doesn't always taste good, but you still got to take it.
Yeah.
And that's what we need.
No, and I hope it doesn't come to that. We'll see, but because that would be ugly. But
It'd be
with
brutal.
the last one we had though, it was kind of interesting. The black issue didn't come up until much later
Correct.
in the war, right?
Yes.
And just imagine how much work, because it was bad, but just imagine how much worse it would be if Lincoln's Emancipation Proclamation actually worked. Because keep in mind, he didn't free any slaves, zero.
No.
There were no slaves freed by that
It was virtue
proclamation.
signaling.
Well, no, what he was trying to do was get the blacks to rise up, saying you have a home up
Yep.
here, so they murder their owners. He was trying to create dissidents and trouble in the South, was what his intention was. It didn't work,
Yes.
thank goodness, because that would have been way worse. A lot more dead Southern people, a lot more, right?
Yep.
But whatever. Not the saying that the whole slave thing wasn't something worth fighting for, but keep in mind that frickin' Jefferson and Adams and all the Franklin, all
Franklin.
those guys were fighting for that shit way back then.
Yes, they were trying,
They were trying.
doing what they could. Jefferson, I think Jefferson was one of the first. He might have been the first high-level politician to institute anti-slavery laws, and by anti, I don't mean banning it, just things that reduced its ability. I'm pretty sure that's
a
true.
Democrat, though. He was a liberal.
He was one of the first to do. Well, yeah, but he was like a different level. Like there's levels to that.
Well, I'm
game.
not talking about progressive. He was just classical liberal.
He was one of the first to truly make a push for it. Adams was always against it. Franklin became against it after he owned some slaves and he realized how wrong it was. And Jefferson was, even though he had slaves, was always against it and was constantly while he was in the ability to do so, weakening the slave trade.
Yeah,
and
but
people just don't give him that kind of credit, which
Well,
is ridiculous. He
there's
deserved that
another
credit.
little thing that doesn't get brought up by those who bring these things up is the fact that it was illegal for him to release
That's
his
right.
slaves. Illegal.
Correct.
He would have gotten in trouble if he let his slaves.
They would literally just bring them back
It
to
was
him.
illegal.
They would just come back to
Yeah.
him. There was nothing he could do.
Yeah, people don't seem to understand that. Yeah.
No, I exactly. Same with Washington. Washington wasn't allowed to free his completely either. He freed them, a lot of them on his death, but most of them just went to his wife.
Right, and she just didn't use him that way. But he wasn't doing
Yeah.
that for a long time. He was Washington is different anyway. I mean, he's he was young. He was a big mouth troublemaker. But
Yes.
in his elderly years, he became a much better man. But anyway, we are. I have to get moving here. This is nothing interesting here. However, this right here caught my attention. So let's do this last, and then we'll be done. So
Let's see it. Mary Jane Watson joins the gang war as Jackpot in Marvel's new comics this week.
someone needs to get their ass kicked.
Oh.
Someone needs an ass kicking, Grimlock.
Zeb Wells is really trying his best to unseat Dan Slott as the worst Spider-Man writer in the
He's trying.
history of Marvel.
He's trying. But
Competition.
He really is. Like his run. No, seriously. Like I haven't. A lot of people haven't been reading Spider-Man. That's a big problem for them. But from what I have seen, I don't think I have seen a run that has been more hated than his, and that's saying something because Dan Slott.
yeah, Dan
was
Slott,
hated.
fuck Dan Slott. I agree.
Oh,
I mean,
terrible.
It's so stupid. First of all, they gave her kids and they murdered the kids. Great, good job. And they weren't Peter's kids. Keep that in mind,
Oh.
right? Because
my
what is
thing
Mary
is
Jane?
why.
Yeah, no,
why do they
I
think
know why.
I'm
We
here
know
off the
why. We know why, right?
Well,
But-
my question is because Nick Spencer didn't have a good reputation up until he took over Spider-Man, and he actually turned out a decent Spider-Man book, and then they took him off it and gave it to Zeb fucking Wells, and I'm trying to figure out why.
Yeah, no, because they're dumb. They're out of control, stupid over there. But the thing is, Mary Jane is a supermodel and a wife, a girlfriend / wife. That's what she is. It's
She's
just
a
like
support
freaking
character.
Harley Quinn. She is not a super powered person, but now she is, I guess. And then look at the name. Look at the lazy ass shit. They called her Jackpot. Which is her thing. She said, "Face it, Tiger, you hit the jackpot." That you right, Mary Jane.
Yeah.
It's a lazy callback, but they think that the average reader is that stupid.
Well,
I mean,
it's incensing, dude. But let me finish it before you give your point on here, because there's more. There's more, right? Not only is she a badass superhero, you know who she's teamed up with, which I like to guess.
Punisher.
Black Cat.
Of course she is.
Yeah.
Felicia.
Yeah.
Black
Good
Cat.
old Felicia.
Now, if you've ever read a Spider-Man comic book, you know how absolutely stupid that is. They hate each other because they have had several times where Mary Jane and Peter are on the rocks, and who does he go to and jump in bed with? Black Cat, Felicia. Right? I think they even almost married him once or something, didn't they?
Probably.
Those
Pretty
two?
sure.
I
But I
don't
mean,
think.
but I mean, these two women hate each other because they're fighting over the same man. They hate each other, bitterly hate each other, bitterly,
Yeah.
right? Because a man's involved, right? That's their only connection is a man. Black Cat is her own thing. Her backstory. I like Black Cat's backstory. It's interesting, right?
They're
Mary Jane.
ruining her too.
Well, I'm sure they are because she's involved with this bullshit. But I'm just saying that. So one, you've taken a supermodel and made her a superhero. What? And second, you've teamed her up with Black Cat, and I'm sure the lesbianism is on the way, baby.
I'm pretty.
Right? But I mean,
Well,
God damn it, dude.
well, Chester, here. I'll give you a palate cleanser. I'll give you a palate cleanser. Blade by Brian Edward Hill.
Uh-huh.
I actually read the first issue over the weekend. It's actually good. I had some initial worry about the artist because I didn't know who the artist is, and I'm at the point where when I see new artists, I'm like, oh fuck, not another Tumblr artist. And the art was actually good.
This art's
The
good.
story, the story was actually well. Spider-Man's always going to get a good artist.
It's true.
They'll do that much.
You say this art's good, but look at her hand.
Yeah, no, I saw that as soon as I said it. But I mean, we've seen worse, dude. We've seen worse.
Well, yeah, but
Yes, I saw She-Hulk. She-Hulk. They did not even bother to give her. You could tell which books Marvel actually puts money in by the artist that they put in the book.
Look at this. Look at how they beefed her up. This is Mary Jane, right? This is Mary Jane. She's got some tech,
Yep.
I guess, that allows her to be a superhero. Okay, whatever. It's about
Oh
mentality.
yeah, because she had that relationship with fucking Tony Stark too. Yeah, that shit too.
Yeah, but they're always trying to fuck Peter Parker. Always.
Yeah.
They hate him so much, and there's no reason because Peter is such a beloved character because he's lovable. But they can't stand that he's the face to every other human on planet Earth. When you mention Marvel, what's the first thing that comes to your mind? Spider-Man. Always Spider-Man.
Yeah.
Nobody else. Spider-Man, and they hate that. They want to kill him. That's what the whole Miles Morales. People are like, oh, he was good in the Ultimates. You can fuck off. That is a discount attempt to replace Peter Parker. That's all he is. Now, we've had conversations here that Miles could be made into something cool and interesting, but that's not what his inception was. His inception was to get rid of that ugly, nasty, stupid Peter Parker.
Yeah.
And look what they did to Mary Jane. Look at this shit.
Again, the fact that they have
the
fact that they have allowed Jonathan Hickman to bring back the Ultimate Universe when they said they was getting rid of the Ultimate Universe to condense the storylines only goes to prove that back then when all of us were saying, oh, this is only being done to get Miles into the main universe, who's right now?
Unbelievable.
Now that actually looks horrible. Like,
I actually don't mind the picture, but it's not Mary Jane.
That cover is horrible.
This is not. Look at the arms on her. That's not Mary Jane, dude.
Yeah, but I mean, look. No, but I'm just saying. Look at that overall shape. That's ugly.
It is, and the arms don't match the waist or the legs, do they? So this artist is wrong. Well, this is a little bit better. But it's like you're just making her Spider-Man, is all you're doing, right? And it's just this nasty stuff from these nasty people, dude. I just can't. When I saw it, it was like, one, dumb name, stupid idea. Secondly, you have her teamed up with Black Cat, the last person on Earth she would be anywhere near. The last person, right? Because that is one of the most bitter rivalries in Marvel Comics. Now it's not, like we could, Mr. Sinister and all that kind of stuff. I get it. But no, between these ladies fighting over that dude, it's bitter. But they're going to put her up. Anyway, I got to move on today, but that just, as soon as I saw it, I was like, oh, you fuckers. They're not backing up, dude. They just keep burn it down.
One of their biggest problems is that they have too many books.
That's always
this time last year
for money. Yeah.
Well, last year, in terms of books per month. They was putting out 71 titles.
Oh Jesus, that's down. They were
71
doing
different
90.
That's still too many.
It's
It
way
needs
too
to
many.
be about 45, 50 at the most.
I think so. I agree. Yeah.
And books like this don't need to exist.
No.
Because for one, this is probably going to be 5 issues and out because nobody's going to buy this shit.
I mean, if you were doing
There's
a
too
what
many.
if, right? If you were doing like a what if, Elseworld, and someone wanted to have some fun with Mary Jane, okay, fine. But that's not what
We
this
used to
is.
have that series. Go ahead and do that.
Yeah, but I mean, yeah, that's true. But this is mainstream, and once again, it's their eternal search. We've had for the past decade, really. And if you go back to Dan Slott, I don't think he was part of this current agenda, but he just had a bad idea. But this constant search to destroy Spider-Man, and the funny thing is, it's not working. And they put a lot of work into killing that character, dude. A lot of work, but it ain't working.
Yeah.
Because when you say Spider-Man, people think Peter Parker. You can go to frickin' Europe and ask them who Spider-Man is, and they know Peter Parker. Right? So, I mean, dude.
Yeah, exactly. It will never work. They can try, and they've been trying, and it's
They've been
great that
trying.
Miles had some success recently. That's fine. Phenomenal for the people who like him. But the vast majority of people in the world who think of Spider-Man think of Peter Parker, and they
Of
always will.
course. Because he is.
If
It is
if they
Peter
were
Parker.
if they really wanted to make a black Spider-Man, they would. And I'm not suggesting they actually do this. They would have been further ahead just to make Peter black. Just straight up, boom, full on race swap. Because their attempt
Don't
at
give
doing
them that
it,
idea.
they've had that idea. Don't worry. The attempt at doing it the other way will always make that other character feel lesser than every time.
I
He
say
will,
put the
and he
Jews
does.
back in charge.
Well, it'd be helpful, and he does, because what do you think? People don't call Miles Morales Spider-Man; they call him Miles Morales. They
That's
say
right.
Miles.
He's
Hey,
Miles
Miles.
Morales. He's
Right.
not Spider-Man.
I
'cause
still
he's not.
say the best solution to this whole problem is to make him Prowler and be done with it. It's the best
No.
solution. Make him Prowler and be done with it.
I say no. Move. I would move him out of New York completely. I would move him as far
Ooh,
away.
The Bloodhaven move. I get it. All right.
Yeah. No. Seriously. One, for all the people who always complain that there's an oversaturation of heroes in New York, that solves that problem for one. There are plenty of black cities you can move him to if you want to still do the black thing. You can move him to Atlanta.
Baltimore.
You can move him to Detroit. You can move him to Baltimore.
He
You can move
clean
him
up
to
the
Memphis,
rat
Tennessee.
problem.
You could literally move him to any black city in the country. You could still do that theme. You could still have that. You want to fucking focus on him being black, you can do it there. I would even not name him Prowler, because that just shows that nothing he has doesn't come from Peter Parker. I would remove it. Don't even mention it. He's not related to Prowler. Just move away from that completely. Give him he needs an entirely different identity, because everything he has comes from Peter Parker. And the only way you're going to fix that is if you remove him from Peter Parker. That's the only way it's going to happen.
Yeah. Well, the thing is,
he's always going to be a less than character.
No, you're right. And when comic books are always whoring out their characters. I mean, this is nothing new. I mean, shit. Carol Danvers has been whored out how many times? They're constantly She-Hulk as well. They whore out their characters horribly so over the years. But I mean, what they've done with Mary Jane over the years is mean, dude. It's mean spirited. It's mean. It's like you guys probably won't get this reference, but it's like Tasha Yar on Star Trek Next Generation. I mean, then not just her leaving.
Wait. Why wouldn't we get that reference? What do you mean? I grew up watching Star Trek, bro. It's my favorite. The Next Generation is probably my favorite show of all time.
All right.
Hey, our generation, that was our first Trek.
That's fair.
That
is fair. Yeah, but you know what I mean then, because they did some horrible things to that character, and not just her getting killed off in season 1. Later, they kept hammering on that character, dude. I was like, well, what the hell? Why do you hate this character so much? Because they do, right? But what they've done to Mary Jane is ridiculous, dude.
The whole Peter Parker area, his whole universe, his whole little sub universe, they've shit all over every single character, and they only do that to try and to big up Miles, and it doesn't work. The only times that Miles has been a remotely successful character is when they've basically just made him Peter Parker.
Yeah.
They
No,
change a
because
few
that's
little
what he
points
is.
here or
He's
there.
discount Peter. Yeah.
That's the only way to make him work, because that's why there's a reason Spider-Man is Spider-Man, is because it's not because Stan Lee just wrote it that way. Stan Lee wrote it that way because that's the way it works. It wasn't just chance. It wasn't just happenstance that I got lucky. No, he knew what he was doing. He knew exactly what he was doing. He did it purposefully and intentionally, and that's why it worked.
Oh no,
That's why it's a work.
Without
Yeah.
question. And
I'll
Roger
go one
says,
further.
Yeah, go ahead.
Miles has only been good when he's Peter Parker's sidekick.
Yeah, that's true. That is true.
Whether it's been Into the Spider-Verse or that video game, he basically just becomes Robin.
He does.
Yes.
And you know,
And
and they force you to play
and that's
him.
not what they was trying to do with him.
No, they're trying to put him ahead of it, but it ain't going to work. Mary Jane is not a superhero. Roger says she belongs at home reading Cosmo. In this case, yes. Yeah, that's Mary Jane, right? There are plenty of badass female warriors in Marvel comic books and, you know, all comic books.
They've butchered
but
them
not
all
Mary
this
Jane.
past decade. They've butchered them all. Even if for as much shit as we've given about Carol Danvers at one time was a decent character.
She was.
And they have butchered her to high hell.
Oh yeah. Yeah, they have.
They made her into a dude. That's what they did.
They did.
She's a dude.
Yeah.
She behaves like a dude.
And an unlikable dude, because that's the kind of dude, if we was hanging around him, we'd either not hang around him or get into a fight with him.
He'd be chill the fuck out, guy. What's wrong with you?
Yeah.
That's what
Now,
you said.
Maple Chic, I do apologize. I'm not going to be calling you Maple Chic. I shall be calling you the greatest heel turn of all time from now on.
Baby.
But he even says
baby,
his niece and nephews don't call him Spider-Man.
Yeah,
they call him Miles.
He will hit you with the maple syrup, break your back, and make you humble.
Dude. That is truly a great heel turn. I love it. I love it.
It's because I can tell you the backstory real quick, Jester. He has decided, for various reasons, many of them valid, that he hates CM Punk.
Yeah, I'm on board.
I once told him his hatred of CM Punk is Sheik-like. The way Sheik just always pipes in and shits on Hulk Hogan because he hates Hulk Hogan, and he's famous for hating Hulk Hogan, and it's being real to him. He doesn't like Hogan one little bit, and he has a very similar what's the word I'm looking for? We'll just use attitude towards CM Punk, and I appreciate it. I appreciate when somebody commits to the bit.
Sure.
Commit to the bit. If you don't like the guy, don't like him all the time. Don't half-ass that. No. If you believe in something, you always believe in it. So he's Maple Chic now.
I get it.
He's decided.
I love it. Yeah. Well, the thing is, I've never cared for CM Punk either. I mean, I don't hate him, but I just never found him interesting at all. I never got the whole thing with CM Punk. But a lot of people do like him, so whatever, it's cool. You got to go with the majority, right? I'll
tell you a quick story that would make you laugh.
What do you say?
I'll tell you a quick story then that will make you laugh then about CM Punk.
Uh-oh.
Punk in his younger days actually thought that not only he could shoot fight Bobby Lashley and Shelton Benjamin, but he could submit them. So
Phil,
they took turns, and both Bobby and Shelton beat him and made him submit in under a minute.
Yeah, but aren't those guys both MMA? I mean, actual MMA.
Bobby Lashley's a former Army Ranger.
Yeah,
and he's huge.
And CM tried to do the MMA and get his ass kicked, didn't he?
He did.
Yeah.
Badly. Bobby Lashley's also, as far as I know, undefeated in MMA competition, like 15-0.
Yeah.
I mean,
like he's that guy. He's not the guy to fuck around with. He will hurt you.
No, not at all. I mean, there are plenty of people, because wrestling is a show. Sure, it's a lot of athleticism necessary, but it is a show. But that doesn't mean there aren't some wrestlers who are legit, dude. Kurt Angle, dude.
Well, Shelton Benjamin, along with Brock Lesnar, was called the Minnesota Wrecking Crew because they went undefeated for like 3 years.
Oh yeah,
Yes.
no, Brock Lesnar. You don't want to mess with that man.
No, that's sir. If you're in a room with Brock, he's sir until he tells you he's not.
That's
It's
right.
that simple.
Yeah, you don't want to mess with that dude. You got to go for the knees. Go for the knees, man. But yeah, no,
He'll
some
just jump.
dudes are
I seen
legit,
that big gorilla jump over railings. It's insanity how athletic that man is.
and he's a legit fighter, though, legitimate fighter,
Oh, yeah.
not just a show wrestler.
No.
And you know, I'm not knocking it at all, because there's a lot of athleticism necessary. But I'm saying there are different. You have some people in wrestling who are legitimate fighters, right? Bobby Lashley has a better rating in UFC than Lesnar has. Oh, there you go. I see. I knew he
That's
was a
correct.
champion.
That's correct. I don't think he ever went to the UFC. He was fighting in one of the other ones.
Bellator.
Yeah,
Oh,
but he was.
Bellator.
I'm
Yeah.
pretty sure he never lost a fight. I could be wrong,
He
but I'm
didn't.
pretty sure he just didn't. He just kicked ass.
Yeah,
I mean, look
yeah.
at him. He looks like
Yeah.
the type of man who could kick anyone's ass. Just look at him. The beast.
Who was another Bellator
And just
guy?
the nicest guy.
Kimbo Slice.
Kimbo.
Kimbo
Yeah, Kimbo.
Slice. He was a Bellator guy. I think he did get a shot in the UFC, didn't he? But
he did, but he
was
was older and he wasn't as good as he once was.
Yeah,
One of
it's
those
sad he
situations.
died, man. I liked old Kimbo, man.
Yeah, Kimbo
He
was
was
a good
nice
dude.
guy. He was a good dude.
Yeah.
You know, really an actual good dude. Yeah. So anyway,
Yeah, you don't want to.
Yeah,
Bobby's
but
one of those
I
guys.
thought you'd find that story funny though.
yeah.
And the weird thing is typically guys know who that guy is. We don't need to be taught it, right? You can just usually tell this guy can mess somebody up. Might not want to mess with him, right? Because that's always a possibility when you're among dudes that some violence could happen. And occasionally there'll be that guy that nobody messes with for what you just because we just know we're like nah.
Yeah, no, you don't mess with
I don't
that
need
dude.
that. I don't need that problem.
Well,
I don't need that problem.
Therefore,
I think the only reason people fuck with Lashley is because, in spite of his massive size,
Yeah, he sounds like a
he's
15-year-old boy.
he's
Yeah, he's
very
the Mike Tyson thing,
soft-spoken.
yeah.
And he's very soft-spoken and friend. No, it's that he's soft-spoken and friendly.
nice.
Like he's
He's
not.
a nice guy.
He's not a mean. Like if you see any interviews of him, he's a really nice dude. Like he looks like the kind of guy who would like be giving kids free ice cream during the summer if he had nothing else to do.
maybe he does.
And-
But Maple Chic, I'm 100% on board. Matter of fact, I'm going to be your sidekick. You shall call me the Maple Monk. But we have to pronounce it properly because I'm over here in Japan. So Maple Monk. That's me.
As
I
racist
got-
as possible.
I got
would
your
like
back.
to do it, please.
I got your back.
Oh man, I love it. I do
Yeah.
love it. I in fact do love pro wrestling. It is.
Yeah, it's fun.
It might be America's greatest fake sport. It might be, but it's not the NFL. Pro wrestling might be.
Yeah, well, fair. I was going with the XFL, but I get you. Yeah. Yeah, but you know, one thing I have to say though, because I much prefer boxing to MMA stuff, personally.
Yeah.
That's my generation. But I do like Dana White though. I don't know what he is.
It's a
as a
shame
human. He could be a
boxing fell off
shithead.
after the 90s.
But well, I don't know anything about him, but I do know that he is unrelenting when it comes to his support of his people speaking their mind, and I appreciate
Yes.
that.
Well, it's also
Oh, yeah.
good business. It's better for business. He understands pro wrestling better than most people do, even though he's not technically promoting pro wrestling. It's better for business to let these guys go out there and say nasty shit to each other.
Sure.
Because now you're way more interested in watching him get his ass kicked. Because that son of a bitch, how dare he say whatever? Pick a group about that group. It's just
Well-
pro wrestling in a modern era. At least the promotion of it is. It's the same
Right.
shit they use.
No, it's a similar tactic. I saw this. You know, he was given an interview, and he was giving the interviewer shit for the anti-free speech nonsense. But one of the things he did say I thought was really interesting was the card just before that, their big fight, I guess, with this guy that they hate, were
Yeah.
two lesbian women in the sub card, right, just below the big fight. And the way he put it was really interesting. There's two lesbian women in that fight before, and neither one of them give one shit about whatever that guy's name is.
Yeah.
right? And basically, he didn't continue. He wanted to, but he should have. Says so. Therefore, why do you?
Correct.
Right.
Well, I think a lot of people. You got a lot of busybodies, right? We've talked about them before. They're the self-righteous people who
Fair enough.
want to
Yeah.
get all up in their butt about X, Y, or Z. And there's some reasons too sometimes, but not all the time. Especially in the fight game. Fight games. Listen to me. You're going in there and ritualistically beating somebody within an inch of their life. That's the job. Is to nearly kill this person.
Right.
That's the point. When you knock somebody unconscious, there's a good chance they never wake up. A good chance that can happen. And it has happened in boxing
many times.
numerous times. They get knocked out and they die, or they get knocked out and a week later they're paralyzed, or just all sorts of stuff. So this is a combat sport. It's very serious business. People don't have time to worry about all this other nonsense that a lot of these reporters, who aren't really reporters, they're activists, who try and bring into it. Like, I don't know if you saw it, but Sean Strickland just went off on some reporters because they were asking him a bunch of LGBTQ, all this nonsense, all these questions, and he didn't have any time for it. He was calling them all kinds of motherfuckers and everything else.
That was the guy that reporter was going on about. Yeah, that guy.
Strickland. Yeah, I would recommend, if you haven't seen it, I'd recommend go watching it, even if you don't agree with it. It's very interesting to watch because that's the way fighters are. And I think I think one of the best things you mentioned, you say it's about free speech, and it is, but Dana's just letting these people be themselves. He's not getting in their way. And that is far more entertaining than watching a person him and haw because they're not allowed to say X, Y, or Z. Right? No, well, they're in a box. And I think that's why it's good.
No, right. But his biggest balk to that interviewer was when the guy says, you give them a long leash. That set him off. And he's right. Because what do you mean leash? I mean, these dogs? I mean, what do you mean leash?
Yeah, they're grown human adults.
And he wanted to say more, but he couched himself and was more political with his response. But yeah, no, I agree, dude. Yeah,
I agree. I think Dana White, if Vince McMahon didn't exist, would be the greatest sports promoter of all time.
But Vince McMahon does exist. He's done amazing.
And
things.
Yeah,
he has.
It's amazing. I mean, you don't have to like Dana White or whatever, and that's fine. I don't think he cares if you like him or not. No. If he can get your attention and watch his stuff, that's what he cares about. Yeah. And that's refreshing because he's not that old of a guy. I think he's about your age, Chester. I don't think he's much older than you, or maybe he might even be a little younger than you. He's not that old, Dana.
No,
and he's got this mentality of an old school fight promoter, and that's why he's successful. There's a reason why. I saw this on Twitter recently, and this can actually, if you want, be our namaste moment. There's a reason we have traditions, because traditions exist to solve problems we don't know we have. That's what they're for. And when you have guys like Dana White, who are a very traditional fight promoter, insofar as he'll let his guys, he lets them off the leash, quote unquote, and lets them do what they want to promote the fight. It's kind of on them. UFC will give you the platform, they'll get the eyeballs to you, but when it comes to getting people to buy, that's on the fighter. That's not on Dana. That's not on anybody else. That's how he puts it. That's how he promotes his fights. Yeah. And that's very brilliant. I mean, there's a reason Muhammad Ali is considered the greatest of all time, even though that's very arguable record-wise. And it's because he was such a good marketer. He was so good at promoting himself.
He was great. And he always did with a wink, wink, right, in his eye.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. He knew what he was doing.
He did.
And it works. It works beautifully. I think pro wrestling, I said this recently about wrestling, one of the reasons we're seeing this boom period is the wrestlers figured out social media. They figured out how to use social media for promotion.
Fair.
Most of them stay in character and stuff online now, because for years they didn't. They would be this evil bad guy in the ring, and then they'd get on Twitter or whatever and be talking about charity they're doing, stuff like that. It's like, what? That don't work. What are you doing? That don't work. You're breaking the illusion, right? And that's one of the things that I think we've seen in the last few years. They've really started to get their game up when it comes to is if you're in public. Yeah, if you're in public, you are a brand. You need to stay on brand, and that sometimes is going to suck because maybe you are doing something cool, but you shouldn't really talk about it necessarily, right, publicly. Mm-hmm. My point is, I think we're seeing now Dana White is proving to a lot of people, and it's good. We're seeing a almost an alliance between him and certain other interests, proving that in corporate America, you don't have to toe this line. You don't have to do it. You can be extremely successful in corporate America in a massive corporation that is TKO and Endeavor, which is who is UFC's parent companies now, and just kind of let people be people. You don't have to play these games. You don't have to do it. And I
No.
think that's a good thing to see.
It is.
It's healthy for the culture, for people like Dana and Vince and the WWE and just all these these organizations, to just say no when people try to throw a leash on their talent. That's not healthy. You want your talent to be able to express itself because it's, well, entertaining, and entertainment's important to keep people sane. Imagine if we didn't have entertainment, Chester, at all. That's why people get so upset. When we see our entertainment get corrupted by nonsense and be made worse, be made lesser, the reason it upsets us is because entertainment is one of the things that keeps us sane. Imagine if you had to face the world with no entertainment at all. That'd be
I'd
miserable.
make some.
That's my point.
Sock
We would
puppets.
have to make something up. We'd have to do
We
it.
would.
We'd have to, because otherwise you'd go crazy. You'd
Sure.
lose your fucking mind.
Fair enough.
And that's why it's important.
It is. Well, that's definitely an namaste, but I'm going to let Grimlex say something before that. But before that, I got to talk to my partner. He's got
Uh-oh.
2 big old jugs of maple syrup that he uses in combat. I have a mini jug over here. I'm good. I'm good. He also has Beware My Beaver Clutch. Well, sir, I have also the Tanuki Tuck. So
Oh,
we're good.
watch out. Don't get tucked. You don't want to get
I don't
tucked.
want to get tucked.
You don't want to.
Yeah. So we're good, dude. We're good. We're going to have to do a team up. Of course, the thing
Tag
is,
team.
if we ever actually met up at a con or something like that, we'd have to wear our suits. I don't know how big Sheik is, but I have a feeling I would tower over him. But that's okay. I'm still a sidekick.
That's fine. Yeah, that's how it works in Japan. The big guy's the sidekick.
That's right.
Yeah,
That's
fine.
right. Yeah. Grimlock?
You're the heavy. You're the heavy in
I'm the
this
heavy.
equation.
Yeah, that's right.
Have a good night, everybody. And if you're a Transformers fan, pick up that new Transformers comic from Image. It actually is good.
Is it? Yeah, I saw that. I was
Yeah.
going through comics. Yeah. Cool.
It is
All right.
actually good.
Sweet. Good news. And namaste, everybody. Later.